Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor, but I'd like to ask that you pull June 12th on the minutes for June 12th. Can you pull them or bring them back next week?
All right, we'll pull the minutes for June 12th.
Yeah, but May 22nd, we want to keep the way it is. That's the amended, and a quorum is present.
All right. Any persons wishing to address the City Council on any item on today's agenda of the closed session may do so at this time.
I'll patiently await till I have everyone's attention.
Okay.
That is why we have these meetings. My name is Diane Sembrano, and I'm going to suggest that you actually do what Mr. Stevens has suggested and include more details on those warrant registers, and that's CI1. Many of the folks who are here today don't know the history of our even being able to comment on the warrant register whatsoever, and that is due to the very long and unfortunately attempts by many to make sure the public couldn't. And of course it did take getting attorneys and all that junk involved so that we do. And so I'm glad that we have what we have, but I've always thought that we should have more detailed information on those warrant registers, because sometimes it just feels like we're giving money to friends and family just for the fun of it. And I know that on occasion we've seen some of those petty cash vouchers, and I think one of the most offensive one to me was I forgot how many gallons it was of M&Ms. Yeah, those little cute little candies that somebody felt were absolutely essential expenses. That's probably how we got in such a nice little financial mess that we've gotten into, which of course some would choose to deny on a regular basis. But as you go forward and you do all of this nice little second reading for the financial helpfulness of Hollywood Park, I don't know. It always amuses me how we forget that people with houses tend to have children and tend to have cars. As I said before, the school district has already put on their agenda the sale of Daniel Freeman Elementary School, the only thing left with Daniel Freeman's name on it, considering he used to own what is now 7 cities. But more importantly, a school site which has had children. Now, because the school district is not run particularly well, I think a lot of people have taken their children elsewhere, but that does not change the fact that, in fact, there are children in our community. And unless we are requesting sterilization certificates along with those pre-loan documents for the Hollywood Park project, chances are there's going to be some children in there, unless you're planning some sterilization legislation a little bit later. So I would have hoped that you'd bothered to do that, which did not happen. It was brought up before and you ignored that. So I can only see drama in the future. But guess what? I'll be here to say I told you so.
Gil Matthew, District 4, Mayor and City Council. Speak on payment of the bills. I think it's an excellent idea to improve payment of the bills with more information. Now, in addition, I would suggest that very possibly you could get a computer program. It's a very simple operation where you would take at random each week about 20 items off the register randomly. And that way you could follow up on documentation. See, it's a very easy program to extrapolate, say, even 20, 30 items on the agenda, and have the city manager request documentation. And I think that's a better way that everything would be in order, because it's very easy to sign off without documentation. And as they said in the past, if you look at a dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." Say, trust but verify, which I think is an excellent idea of where is your money going, particularly now that the budget is such condition as it is. So on 01, if it's at all possible that when you give special use permits, instead of rezoning, that if the ordinance could include that when it's a special use at that time only for that condition, and at the termination of that condition, or whenever the owner of the property wants that rezone would become nominally void and you revert to the original zoning. I think that would help rectify the idea of going from R1 to R3, because when you do that, their property value increases, and I don't know whether the assessment increases with it. But it's just something in passing I would suggest that you look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'd like to speak on the approval of the minutes. I still request that the council not approve any other minutes until the inappropriate way that the clerk creates and the council approves minutes are corrected. There's one exception to that, and that is the revised minutes or portions of the minutes that are up for approval tonight. As you know, I've come here a couple of times beginning in March, and I pointed out that the minutes, for instance, have left out about 75% of the comments of public speakers, that the minutes have omitted speakers' comments that, let's just say, are not favorable to the council's agenda. For instance, 3 out of the first 4 times I spoke here complaining about problems with IPD, those comments weren't even recorded. And a few weeks ago I mentioned that the May 22nd minutes, where the mayor supposedly apologized to me, the portion of the mayor's documentation stated, quote, "Mayor Butts also indicated disappointment in the way Mr. Texera inquired about the service he received that was handled by staff in the police department," and that gave the clear impression that I was somehow being blamed for the fact that I have repeatedly brought up problems in IPD, some of which have already been substantiated, and I brought it up once. Council still approved the minutes. I brought it up last week, and begrudgingly, it was said that they would be looked at to see if it would be changed, even though I provided the council with copies of the portion, and even though the mayor had said that he knew that that's not what he said. He told the clerk that last week, and even though the week before I quoted it. So it took 2 meetings, and for me to come up here and give copies of documents that the clerk knew, that the council heard, wasn't true, before even a consideration of a change in the minutes was considered. Now, after I spoke last week, the clerk said, "Oh, we're happy to do that." But the fact is, on all the times that I've spoke about problems in the minutes starting back in March, not one thing was changed until I came up here and read the Riot Act. And that's not right. This is an official meeting. And people need to take this a little bit more seriously. And if people are wondering why people get upset when they come up here, it's because this stuff is bush league. This isn't something that would be tolerated in a business. It's something that, a student council would do. It's really ridiculous. But again, I approve the revision of the minutes.
That don't make no sense.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and staff. I'm Renal Davis. I'm from the 2nd District. I got in late. I apologize if you pull this. It's item number 4 regarding the city manager. Send me a 30-day written notice to Waste Management. That's business. Okay. We got a new outfit coming in, and I hope that we can have a little more fairness and reasonable treatment regarding billing. I held my peace on this until this was settled, but I'm a president of a small homeowners association. In the past, we would have waste management come twice a week, but that all changed when our association decided we had to cut costs, as everyone is. And so I said, oh, I have a great way. Let's see if we can have waste management come in once a week. It'll cut our pickup fees in half. Long story short, that wasn't the case. They're doing half the work, and I looked at my bill the next month, or should I say our bill, and it was a token amount. It wasn't reality. It should be 50%. If you're only coming once a week instead of twice a week, why should you only charge me, or why should I only be allowed to pay you about 80% of it? You see, how is that fair? If you're not doing the actual work, you're not physically coming to our unit. And so I inquired about it. It seems as though that's the way it is. I hope that can be changed, because I really don't want to pay for something if I'm not getting the service. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, Joyce Smith, District 1. I just have a question of an item on the consent calendar number 6, Public Works, where you are going to, you're recommending approval of an amendment with this company to extend the term of the agreement from 24 to 48 months. That's going from 2 years to 4 years, and I don't know what that means. Does that mean that they have up to 4 years to design something for Century Boulevard, or I just don't know. I don't understand when you say you're extending the term of the agreement. I don't really know what the agreement is and what, but that's a long extension from 2 years to 4 years, and I'm hoping that doesn't mean that Century Boulevard will be, you have 4 years to design something. I don't know what it means, so that's the only reason I came up with. I had a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Leroy Fisher, the First District. With regard to item 3 on the agenda, confirming the appointment of people from the South Bay workforce, I want to know if you them are going to confirm these people. Do they live in Inglewood, number one? And the reason I'm questioning that, because I know one of the individuals on the workforce board already, and have talked to them in the past about that and about hiring young people from the city of Inglewood. And as these people are represented to work here for whatever they do, I would that they would be here and familiar with this community and the young people in it, and be getting jobs for the young people of the city of Inglewood. With regard to 7 to 8 and 9, these amended resolutions from whenever, it was my understanding that most of this money for installation of these sound reducing things is paid for by the airport. And when you let these contracts, why do you always come back with these amendments? Who's paying for these amendments? Is the airport paying for them? You got $750 million allotted to amendments, and I guess if it is so, then it takes away from other installations that other people could have. This stuff has been going on for such a long time, and you hear people crying about, when is it going to be my turn? But if these people have contracts and say they want, so much money for these contracts, and then they come back and continue to amend these things. It's just a concern of mine about that. So if maybe it could be explained so that I and maybe others could understand it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Close public comment. Item 1, CSA 1 and H1.
Mr. President.
Move allow payment.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. Consent calendar items 2 through 9.
So moved.
Move item 6 and second.
I'd like to pull item 3, 7, 8, and 9.
I want to pull 4.
Okay.
Well, let's see.
If you guys could talk in the mic and I can
Yeah,
hear a little
hold
better
on
because I
one
didn't
second.
hear that.
Hold on 1 second, please. Councilman Franklin, you wanted to pull item what?
6, please.
All right, so that's 6. Councilman Stevens, you wanted to pull what?
3, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, and Councilman Dunlap?
4.
So I have 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Is that correct?
Leaving 5 and
Leaving
2.
5 and 2.
And we're not approving the minutes for June 12th, 2012.
Correct.
Number 4 pulled.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
It was 4 still on? 4 still
I
on?
pulled 4.
Yes.
For you, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. So,
So number 3.
actually, all we did was approve the minutes. So item 3?
And 5 was for
And 5.
Oh, okay, and 5. Item 3? We want to call item 3.
Okay, thank you. Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution confirming the appointment of the representatives to the South Bay Workforce Investment Board.
I so move.
Second.
Did you call it?
Yes, I pulled it.
Did you want to report?
Yeah, I wanted a report on it, and I would like to have Mr. Fisher's question answered, which I had some concerns about, as to whether or not the people live in Inglewood or not. The requirements, yes.
All right, Mayor and City Council. The City of Inglewood is one of the oldest members of the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. The primary objective of the board is to allow staff to create within the South Bay area, delivery area, an environment whereby every person is able to maximize his or her career potential. The city was notified recently that there are 5 appointments that need to be made, and those appointments, those seats are listed in the staff report. The terms of the seats are listed, and the names on page 1, and the seats of the individual names are listed on page 2. It does not list on there what their residency is, but it does list the private sector business that they are being appointed from.
Well, the question was whether or not they were Inglewood residents or not. So,
Yeah, I don't have that, whether or not they're a resident. To be a resident of Inglewood is not a requirement. They need to be, they need to represent a business.
okay, but this has come before this council because they need our assistance in order to apply for various grants and in order to participate in utilizing federal and state funds. So shouldn't we at least have individuals from this city on their board? I'm just asking. Is it in fact unreasonable for us to ask that the representatives on their board, because this is a nonprofit entity, correct?
You're correct.
Okay, it's not a governmental entity. So would it actually be, it's not really unreasonable. I do not think, colleagues, that we ask the individuals who serve on this board be residents of the city of Inglewood.
To my knowledge, it would not be unreasonable to ask that if that was the council's desire.
Mr. City Attorney, is there any law that prevents us from doing that?
There is nothing. There is. I don't know that you can require certain.
Well, they're coming to us for asking for our approval. It seems that, they are basically using the demographics of our city in order to apply for grants. So it would seem to me, colleagues, that we should, in fact, request that they be comprised of Inglewood residents. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
Just briefly, if we want to do that, as the city attorney said, we're not so sure we could put more stringent kind of requirements, but my thoughts, let's just say we could. I don't mind it either way. However, I think what's ultimately important is that whoever's on the board has a stake in the city of Inglewood, whether it be business or residency, in terms of how they value the city, what they bring to the city, and their history in the city. But if it's allowed, of course, it would always be great to have residents. But in regards to what I believe, who brings it to the table, stakeholders bring it to the table.
Comment, Mayor.
Councilman
I'm
Franklin.
sorry, you through, Councilmember Stevens?
Well, I'm just, at this point, yes.
All right,
Councilman Franklin.
Well, I just want to echo the concern about these candidates that have been identified, what they bring to the table. We're talking about individuals that are in fact stakeholders of the city, where they have businesses, some large, some small, but they are being consistent. And so what we're looking to do is be able to recruit our youth and young adults into employment opportunities. And this is a venue of opportunity where these stakeholders are currently in place that would be representing the city to make sure that they do in fact properly represent us by actually being entrepreneurs or business professionals within the city of Inglewood. And so if it's doable by the city attorney that we could encourage people to be Inglewood residents, but certainly I don't want to discourage a business within the city to be able to sit on the board, that brings a lot of opportunities that would help solidify and increase job opportunities by Inglewood residents. My comments. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Councilman Dunlap.
Actually, it states, excuse me, it states very clearly here that federal regulations do not provide guidelines or requirements on how a municipal agency should identify its private sector appointees. So I think it leaves it open for this body to make the decision as to our criteria. And with regard to the individuals whose names are listed here, I certainly do recognize the two individuals, well, actually, one that has a business in Inglewood, for sure. One that has a business in Inglewood but also is a resident of the city of Inglewood, Mr. Wayne Spencer, who comes here on occasion. The other two, I'm not sure, I don't personally know where their businesses are located. I just believe they're probably members of the Inglewood Airport Chamber of Commerce. Well, I agree with my colleague to my right with regard to potentially looking at business people who live here. We do have a lot of business people in the city of Inglewood who operate small businesses here who actually live here as well. And so once again, we've waited to the last moment because these seats, the new terms start on July 1st, which is next week. We didn't have to wait that long. And if there's no real hardship in waiting for an extra week, I would like us to wait to find out what are our parameters with regard to putting in local people, because it does state very clearly that there are no federal guidelines, and most of the money that the Workforce Investment Board receives is from the Fed. So they would place very strict restrictions on us if they existed. So I'd like to know what they are. And by the way, Mr. Fields, are we having a council meeting next Tuesday, since the 4th of July is the day after?
No, we're not having that. No, we're not having a meeting on July 3rd.
On July 3rd. All right, so therefore it would be the 10th, I take it? The 10th would be
Right.
the next meeting?
Yes.
Well, then maybe this could be brought back, Mayor, with regard to just looking into this to see if we could place that on there. After all, there are many cities that belong to the Workforce Investment Board. They're listed here. Let me go over them for the public's, let's see. Where is it listed? Inglewood, of course, Lawndale, El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach, Gardena, Hawthorne, and Carson. I might like to know what those cities do, if they have requirements. Remember, we don't have to do what other people do. We're only required to do what the law allows us to do or permits us to do. So therefore, we might look at that. because we may be appointing people who live in some of these other cities, and they already have their own representation. So let's get representation that's more in tune with this community. So if the mayor has no objections, maybe we can bring this back on the 10th, and the city manager can bring us back some information with regard to can we or can we not ask that people be residents of the city of Inglewood, as well as business people. Obviously, I understand being a business person is important with this type of position, because they are talking about providing employment opportunities. They are getting money for this community. So, but if we would do that, Mayor, would you agree to that?
Before that, let me ask a question. Mr. Fields, so that we don't set up a situation where we're having people try to guess what we want and what's acceptable. I don't want to just say, well, come back to us and bring us something else until we like it. Why don't we do this? I think it's been suggested obliquely that we find out how do they pick, and then we need to have an understanding of within ourselves, though, if we have a criteria for picking people, maybe that criteria gives a reason why they're not residents. Perhaps they have done things for the Workforce Investment Board or done things actually to help the city that we're not aware of.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I misspoke on that, just residents. They can be business people also.
Oh, great.
It's just 59 seats total. I mean,
I got you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I got you, but I'm not really.
It's a total board of 59.
Hold on, you guys. Hold on. I'm not disagreeing with anybody. And so let's just get an understanding of what they're trying to accomplish. And I do think business people are very important because this is talking about jobs. And then ask them directly if we wanted the people to be either Inglewood residents or have businesses in Inglewood, would that create a hardship for them? And if they have no objection, then maybe we'll come up with a different result.
I think Councilman Stevens' clarity.
Yeah. I can tell you that all of the businesses here are businesses in Inglewood at this point, and they're recommended by the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, does that make any difference to everyone?
Not to me.
Councilman Stevens.
Well, if they are in fact businesses of, I recognize Wayne Spencer and Charles Harkey, but Patricia Bennett and Angela Gibson, although I was not aware that AT&T actually had a headquarters here in the city of Inglewood. I mean, I know.
I believe she's a resident. I mean, she's the representative.
Yeah, she's
for
a representative,
the
but they're not actually operating.
But actually, she's actually a resident of Inglewood.
I think what we should.
She's a resident.
She's a resident. Okay. Okay. How many of the 59 seats are actually composed of Inglewood residents? Are there just the 5 here? Or?
We
have to find
7
it.
appointees.
I'm not sure how many of those are Inglewood residents.
That's our total.
But that's not listed in the body of this. I didn't see where it said Inglewood is allotted 7 individuals. Are we allotted 5 or is it 7?
It's 7.
It is 7?
Yes.
Okay, it wasn't listed in here. But the issue is that is that sufficient that they are that what we have here at this time, these individuals here. So what you're saying, City Manager Mr. Fields, is that Angela Gibson is in fact an Inglewood resident. Wayne Spencer, of course, is an Inglewood resident as well as also a business person.
I cannot confirm the residency of the
That was
appointments.
Councilman Morales that confirmed that for Angie.
Oh, okay. And Patricia Bennett with PJ's Unique Bookkeeping and Tax Service, is that an Inglewood business? Or is that Hawthorne?
As the mayor requested, I'll come back with the full.
Okay, so let's do this.
Very good.
Maybe these names are all right. So let's just find out what their bona fides are as it relates
come
to
back.
I agree, sir.
And
I
then
agree.
we'll just come back.
I concur.
So we'll concur it to July 10th.
I concur.
Wait a
And the,
minute. Can you confirm
qualifications of the
today
other cities.
whether those are businesses? Why don't we just?
Qualifications that other cities have, any criteria?
Okay, hold on. One more. Go ahead, Mr. Morales.
My point was that they're checking right now. We could probably vote on this tonight if it's okay. Councilman, you've clarified with that businesses are okay with you, correct?
Yes.
So if you want, the item could come back after they verify it tonight.
Okay.
All right. Well, so then we'll hold it off.
Okay.
And we'll vote later. So that's we're going to hold on to item
3.
3. And we'll come back to it. Would you call item 4?
Staff report recommending authorization be given to the mayor to provide a 30-day written termination notice to Waste Management of Los Angeles, terminating Integrated Solid Waste Management Services Agreement number 04-142, effective August 1st, 2012.
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes. Good evening, Darrell Brown, Deputy City Manager. What you have before you tonight is a request from staff to authorize the mayor to provide a 30-day written notice of termination to Waste Management. As you know, the city had been serviced by Waste Management by virtue of a 7-year contract. That contract was due to expire in November of 2011. However, subsequent to the expiration of that contract, the council took action to extend the contract for up to a 12-month period on a month-to-month basis. On June 5th of 2012, the City Council approved a 10-year contract with Consolidated Disposal Services, and the contract that the city currently has with Waste Management requires a 30-day notice of termination. The new contract with Consolidated is set to begin on August 1st, so we need to terminate that contract, the current contract with Waste Management, and give them appropriate notifications. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you have.
Councilwoman Dunlap?
Yeah, I have some comments. To begin with, when I've concluded with my remarks, you can let the public know what has been currently done with regard to the transition between Waste Management and Consolidated. But I've got a real concern because I've started figuring out some of the trash bills for some of my constituents, and I'm very concerned, Mr. Brown. I'm going to address you since its contract is under your purview, as well as to my colleagues on this council. I have one small business in my district that currently their charges for trash pickup with Waste Management is $181. $181 a month. With Consolidated, it's going to be $213. That's an increase from $180 to $213. Now, this body had a choice of 3 contractors at the time. Had we have chosen the contractor that was ranked the best in municipal service, the best in customer service, individual ratepayers, and also at the lowest rates, that small business's monthly charge would have gone down to $89. I'm going to repeat that. Right now it's $181. $181. With Consolidated, it's going up to $213. With the company we chose not to do business with, ranked the best in service, municipal, other cities, as well as individual customers, it would have gone down to $89, under $100. I don't know what we're doing here. And one of my customers, I've already mentioned, one of my constituents, I should say, a customer of Waste Management today, and going to be Consolidated. These, I've been going over all of our a lot of the trash bills, and I find it unconscionable that we negotiated with a trash hauler. We're the only city in Southern California who put out a request for proposals, an RFP. The public hears that term referenced a lot. We're the only city in Southern California to put an RFP out recently for trash, and our prices went up. Other cities, when they put out an RFP, managed to get their prices down. I also would like a written explanation, Mr. Fields, from staff as to why, after approximately 2 months of negotiations, we took a proposal from a company, Consolidated, which is who this body chose to negotiate with for reasons unknown to me. And at the end of that negotiation, that company is making more money off of this community than they were making in the original proposal. I want a written explanation for that. In writing from your office, it's going to be a public document. Somebody presents a proposal to us in writing, we negotiate with them, I expect it to go down, not the company to get more. As it stands today, the company that this body chose to do business with, you, the ratepayer, residents and businesses alike, are going to be paying $25 million more over the life of this contract than you would have been paying had you have chosen the company that was ranked the best. You have to ask why. I don't believe we have a right to the money in your bank account. I think You need to keep it yourself in these tough times. We should have been reducing your trash bills if we could, and definitely improve the service. Remember, when one company is ranked the best and other people are ranked below that, that means their service is inferior to the highest ranked company, and that's who this body chose. Yes, are we giving notice to Waste Management? A 30-day notice? Yes, we are. I'm very disappointed that this body, once again, is going to be collecting approximately $25 million more out of the checkbooks of my constituents and everyone else in the city of Inglewood than they would have had to have paid if another waste hauler had been chosen. And I have no idea as to why that happened, because we hear a lot of lip service about always wanting what's best for this community. Well, I think this body failed miserably. I also believe we're in violation of Proposition 26. Section 1, Article 13, Section C of the California Constitution, which says, this is a direct quote, "The local government bears the burden of proving by a preponderance of the evidence that a levy, charge, or other exaction is not a tax, that the amount is no more than necessary to cover the reasonable costs of the governmental activity." Reasonable costs. Well, I think paying $25 million more for a service over 10 years is far from being a reasonable cost. So therefore, I'm greatly concerned that we're just moving forward like a freight train on this. It's already been done, but the public needs to hold this body, your city council, accountable for all of its decisions, whether made 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or on June 5th, 2012. Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
Oh, excuse me, I have time left. I asked him to respond to the transition.
Well, actually, what's going to happen is that we've been in discussions with the consolidated representatives, and they are planning a comprehensive transition, and actually is underway with their communications with the current waste hauler, Waste Management, who I might say have been very cooperative in dealing with the consolidated to make the transition.
Mr. Brown, with regard to transition, so then physically any contact been made with the ratepayers, any notice, anything physically with regard to letting people know that they're changing? Are they doing anything? What about the trash cans? 30 days is a very short transition period. They're supposed to start picking up trash on August 1st. Is this correct?
That's correct.
Okay, well, it's almost July 1st. It's a very difficult task ahead, and I want to know, what are they doing? You're saying they're talking to Waste Management. Are you saying that's all they're doing? There's representatives here from Consolidated. Maybe they'd like to come to the microphone, let us know what are they doing throughout the city with regard to talking to ratepayers, collecting trash cans. It's my understanding that we're not going to be using the same trash cans. They have to deliver new ones. I want to know, when are they going to deliver those new cans? When are they going to be picking up the old ones? When are their trucks going to be starting?
They're going to be starting that on August 1st. But I didn't get a chance to respond, but we have a representative. You want the representative to respond? Or?
Well, why don't we do this? The councilman's time is up. I'll use my time to see if they want to answer that question.
Well, I would expect the professional courtesy would respond to the question, period. It doesn't have to be on your time, Mayor. It's just
well, I'm
he's
saying,
here.
but your time is up, and I'll manage the meeting if you don't mind.
Right, but it's not your time. It's just a reasonable question.
And we'll get it answered. Councilman Stevens, do you have any comment?
Can he answer my questions while I'm...
Of course you can, but first of all, let me let Councilman Stevens go, and we'll be glad to. Go ahead, Councilman Stevens.
I'm going to pass it this time.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Castro, if just specifically some information about the transition.
James Castro, General Manager for Republic Services. Currently, we are in talks with and have been in discussions with Waste Management. All our outreach program is with the city right now, pending approval. They've had it since last week. I believe it's probably 99% ready. Yeah. That'll go out the end of this week.
Excuse me, I didn't understand what he meant. When you say 99% ready, what's 99%
ready?
Well,
pending there, that they may have some verbiage changes to the language. Everything we've put in our outreach is per the agreement. So again, I'm just waiting for Mr.
And we've been in communications with consolidated representatives.
Well,
daily.
I actually asked about the community, businesses and
ratepayers. That's our outreach. All our outreach has to be approved by city staff.
So none of that's been done to this point.
they're in the process of developing that. We've approved.
So none of that has been done at this point, Mr. Castro?
We've completed, it's pending approval from staff.
Okay, but nothing's gone out. When do you anticipate it going out?
End of
to?
this week.
The end of this week?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Dunlap,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. Item 6.
Staff report recommending approval of an amendment to agreement number 1064 with ACOM for the provisions of design services for the Century Boulevard Roadway Improvement Project P695 by extending the terms of the agreement from 24 to 48 months.
Mayor, I'm not asking for a staff report since I asked the item to be pulled.
No staff report.
May I comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, I simply wanted to be noted for the record that the AECOM did a presentation to this council a few weeks ago, if not a few months ago, and they referenced their recommendation of narrowing the lanes from on the Century Boulevard between Crenshaw and Van Ness, particularly under the contract section B, line 20 through 24, that addresses the reducing of the current existing lanes or the Century Boulevard down to 6 lanes to 4 lanes, and that I wanted to be known that this council member does not support that avenue. I'm not disagreeing that they are going to be used for the 4-hour period, 4 years, on which they're involved in the construction of the Century Boulevard project, but I am concerned that the consensus by them is that they want to reduce the narrowing the lanes, and I don't support that, and hopefully my colleagues will not either. And if you could just clarify for the residents' concerns.
I can do that for you, Councilmember Franklin.
Which one?
As we talked about, I can clarify.
Oh, no,
that.
but there was a residence brought here before why we're doing it from 2 years to 4 years,
Okay.
and they raised the issue of, and you can do it, if there's an issue of concern that they're still under the surveyor portion that's going to be extended to additional 2 years, as opposed to us still gearing up to do the construction portion by the 1st of next year. Okay.
Yes. The construction will start early next year, and with regard to the particular section east of Crenshaw, the project is proposed to be staged, that the construction would proceed from the westerly boundary near Felton toward the east toward Crenshaw. So the construction involving that section that is the concern of the council would be the last element of the project constructed.
And just to add on to that, what we're going to do is we'll be striping.
Is your mic on?
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
We'll be striping the streets to show indicate the reduction in lanes early in the project, at the beginning of the project. So we'll have almost a year through the entire timeline to experience what it's like with those lanes being reduced. And if we need to make adjustments, or if we determine that based on our information gathering that it is something that we don't want to do, we can do that before we make the permanent reduction in the lanes.
And there's still public comments that can still be made available throughout that year.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
All right. Councilman Steve.
Yes, one of the reasons why I asked for this item to be pulled was because I had concerns about the fact of the narrowing of the highway, but also a few other things. Is that we're starting at the wrong end. We should be starting where the residents live, which is at Van Ness and Century. We should not, in my opinion, we should not start the process. The first area that should be repaved is not at the 405 freeway, in my opinion. It should be east of Crenshaw. And the palm trees are actually at the wrong end of Century Boulevard. In my opinion, colleagues, I think we should want Century Boulevard to mirror the LAX side, so that when an individual's leaving LAX, there's not this differentiation of viewing Inglewood from LA. I think we should have those palm trees moved from the eastern side of Crenshaw, between Van Ness and Crenshaw, down near the 405. And if we are in fact going to reduce the lane or add a lane, they should be down at that end, with even maybe an Inglewood marker that mirrors that of LAX. Because it seems to me the problem is that the reason why people do not come to Inglewood is because they actually see it as something different. Once they arrive at the 405 freeway, they go underneath that horrible underpass that has not been maintained by Caltrans. It's not the city's fault. They then immediately say, well, there's nothing down there that I can see inviting. So let me get on the 405 freeway. And then they had points north. So what I would like to ask is that, is it possible, staff, for us to reassign direction to the company, Avcon, am I pronouncing that correct? AECOM, excuse me, AECOM. Reassign them new directions to have the paving begin east of Crenshaw, and also to move those palm trees down to the western end to mirror that of Los Angeles, on the Los Angeles side. Is that possible?
Yeah, and I think Keith can speak to it, but I believe that the timing of the project is coordinated with the Hollywood Park project. We don't want to be tearing up our streets in that area only to have a need to have them torn up as a result of the Hollywood Park project. So Hollywood Park will be making some changes during that time that we're moving from the 405 freeway. And the palm trees are planned to be through the entire stretch of Century. They're not just in that section. You just saw a rendering that showed the palm trees at that.
Well, perhaps
location.
they should come back and be a little more thorough, because what they showed was only the eastern section of Century
They were just
Boulevard.
showing you a sample of what the median and landscaping would look like, but it's not, that's common, just to show you a section. You wouldn't be able to get the feel for what the landscaping would look like if we showed you, the entire stretch. So it was just a sample of a section.
I understand your position, but my position is this: is that since Century Boulevard is widening in one portion, I believe the eastern portion opposite of Crenshaw. No, it's narrowing on the eastern portion of Century Boulevard east of Crenshaw. Then it widens between Crenshaw and Century. Then it narrows again from Century to La Brea. Then it widens again from La Brea to the 405 freeway. I think each one of those sections, perhaps, colleagues, should have been shown to us in more detail. And also in reference to Hollywood Park, I recognize your argument in reference to that we should delay, but I have residents that have tolerated patiently that stretch of Century Boulevard from Crenshaw Boulevard and Van Ness. I think it's unfair. They've paid their taxes, they've done everything that they're supposed to do, and yet a major thoroughfare such as Century Boulevard has potholes, cars have been damaged, people have filed claims against the city for damage to their cars, and then we tell them, well, you've waited, what, 7 years so far, and now we're asking them to wait an additional, how long, Mr. Lockhart?
The current...
Before they arrive at the eastern side of Crenshaw.
Under the phased construction schedule that's put forward with 9 separate phases, the completion of the contract would occur approximately August of 2016.
2016?
That is the schedule that's been put forward.
My residents can't wait that long, colleagues. I would ask for you to support that we modify this this schedule.
Thank you. Councilman Morales.
Councilman,
yes.
I feel your pain, but I got to tell you, this is where I speak up for my residents as well. It was spoken that your residents are affected by Century Boulevard. I can tell you that while in my area their homes don't abut Century Boulevard, they deal with Century Boulevard every day, and it's been way more than 7 years. So I cannot support any change in that schedule. I'll even go further and tell you that if you walk the section that's near La Cienega Boulevard and it goes and compare it to the one near Van Ness, the one near La Cienega is a lot worse, and so are the streets. And I gotta tell you that aside from the fact that Hollywood Park, and this was partly done for that, I was pleasantly surprised when the calendar came out. So there are countless reasons, countless efforts that have been made by residents of the entire city of Inglewood. But when you deal with it, not only in terms of driving down it for potholes, but the folks closer to La Cienega not only see the traffic that abuts them for themselves, but they see the traffic that goes all the way down past Crenshaw, in addition to the one that just has the surrounding efforts that go to the airport from the freeway to Hollywood Park. So I have to say that it's imperative that we start in the La Cienega, as mentioned by AECOM, and that's what I'll support.
Okay, Madam City Clerk.
I need a motion.
Was there a motion? Second?
Well, no.
It was
Well,
moved
let's repeat the motion for the public's clarity.
No,
on
I
the
don't
voting
have a
on the
motion.
issues.
Well, I'd like to make a motion
the
if I
approval.
could.
It was to approve
wait.
the amendment was what was moved.
Yeah, and I second it.
I just want
I would just like to ask for a modification if possible. Could we ask that in there, could we possibly ask for a ranking of Century Boulevard, breaking it up, let's say, into 10 different quadrants, Mr. Lockhart, where we would rank which areas are the worst? I mean, since we're doing this in portions anyway, correct? Was a ranking done pertaining to Century Boulevard? Which areas were the worst?
By ranking, do I understand correctly the comparative distress of the pavement relative to the different sections? Is that what you're asking
Yes.
for? The consultant did a comprehensive pavement evaluation, but I don't have that information at hand to tell you how different sections of the roadway might have been compared. I would also stress that the action tonight simply extends the agreement for 2 years. It doesn't affect the construction schedule, and we can go back with the consultant and look at that construction phasing and schedule and see what alternatives might better accomplish the objectives of the entire council.
But that doesn't affect the timeline. I would ask that we simply hold this over until we are able to obtain the information that Mr. Lockhart has involving the ranking of Century Boulevard, what area ranks the worst, and then we move forward. I'd like to make a motion for that.
Yeah, I would simply remind the council that the current agreement expires on July 13th of this year.
Okay, Mr. Lockhart, this really has nothing to do with those issues of phasing or what we may ultimately decide. This basically just extends the agreement so we can continue on. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And I think this is something we probably need to do. Councilman, we'll definitely look at your issues, and it is going to matter ultimately, and we're speaking ahead of ourselves, how the phasing impacts tearing up the streets again for the Hollywood Park Tomorrow project. So that's going to have a bearing as well. And I agree, the residents that have waited the longest, suffered the most, should get their streets done first, but we also have an overall phasing effect that's going to impact the economies of doing the project and the efficiency of doing it. So we'll look at all those things, but we have a first and second on just approving this extension, and so that doesn't countermand any of your concerns, Council.
But Mayor, if I could just clarify,
Yes.
if we're going to look at which residents suffered the most, I want to know how we're going to determine that. So I doubt that that's something we can look at.
Well, we're not doing that tonight anyway.
Okay.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye. Okay, so we're on item 7.
Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution amending the 2011-2012 fiscal year budget by appropriating funds to reconcile the retention payment request for IMAX Construction and Development, Inc. for construction work with RSI Phase 7 Group 18.
Move item 1 and 2.
Hold on one second, Councilman. Is there any reason, since these are all the same builder, that we couldn't call them all together and resolve them all at once?
Well,
We can,
the issue...
Well, Councilman, is that a problem?
Well, yeah, they're slightly different.
Okay, all right, well, then we'll do them one at a time.
Well, then I'll second the motion.
All right, there's a first and a second. Could you, do you just want to, you have questions? We need a staff report.
So the public will know. Mr. Calzada, can you give us an overview of this item?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Before you is consideration for 2 separate actions. One is to recognize the work that had been done for this particular group. Effectively, this work was completed about a year ago, frankly. What had occurred is that the prime contractor ended up in not paying some subs, and so the matter went through subordination through their insurance company. So by taking action tonight to amend and appropriate funds from the noise mitigation accounts to recognize this contract, the city will then release the final retention payment of approximately $84,323,000.
Mr. Calzada? Yes. So, Mr. Calzada, why did they not pay their subs?
I have no reason or belief or opinion on the business practices of this particular contractor. We just know that we were in receipt of, under state law, material liens and mechanic liens, and so we were not able to process the final retention until this matter was adjudicated.
Okay, it has nothing to do with grant reports that were to be submitted to LAX in a timely manner?
Nothing whatsoever.
Nothing whatsoever?
Nothing whatsoever.
So the individual, so the city itself does not contract a subcontractor who has not been paid? You do not, you do not
the
ask them
the city engages prime contractors. The prime contractor enters into agreements with subcontractors to perform certain aspects of the construction work. We make payments to the prime contractor solely. They're responsible for paying employees, as well as their suppliers, manufacturers, as well as construction workers.
So why was there delay? Why was there the delay?
Again, the Residential Sound Installation Department received a mechanics lien, which in essence stated that the subcontractor had not been paid and during the course of construction. So under state law, and in order to protect the interests of the subcontractor, the sub provided us notice, and we therefore were not able to process the final payment.
Mr. Calzada, how many homes were included in this, in Group 18?
It was one of our smaller groups. The total contract is on the order of $850,000, so it's probably on like 30, 35.
Okay. So I still do not, are we continuing to do business with this contractor?
Of the 102 contracts that we've had, I think they've done less than 3 or 4. So they're not under our current cadre of contractors that we're working with.
Okay, and this has absolutely nothing to do with our failure to submit our grants on time.
Nothing whatsoever to do with any of our required reporting.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Councilman Dunlap?
You state that this company, IMIX?
Correct.
That currently we're not under contract with them for any other phases.
Or any other contract, that's correct.
Well, if they were to submit a bid, would they still be considered a qualified bidder?
Not while I'm sitting in this chair, no, ma'am.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. I think that actually is part of the councilman's
Yes.
questions when he was asking you that question. All right,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
All right. Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye. Before we call 8 and 9, are these going to be the same type of explanation, Mr. Calzada?
Materially, no, sir. While the work has been completed, the basis for the delayed payment had to do with not breaches in contract, more so with back orders that weren't delivered in time, the inability to schedule work after the majority of the work had been done, and then finally, paperwork that was not submitted in either one in a timely way or in a complete manner.
So both of these are going to be that same thing?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, so if there's no objection, could you read both 8 and 9?
Well,
if there's no objection. If you object, we'll do it.
Yes, there's an objection.
Okay. All right, item 8.
Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution amending the 2011-2012 fiscal year budget by appropriating funds to reconcile the retention payment request from Carabuild Development for construction work on RSI Phase 8, Group 7.
Move approval items 1 and 2.
Second.
Can you go through the explanation again?
Thank you, Your Honor. Effectively, this is to recognize the work that has been completed through fiscal year 2010-2011. Obviously, we're in fiscal year 2012, so we're moving or appropriating funds from the noise mitigation accounts into the current budget year to make payment on work that has been done There are two outstanding payments. One is the retention, and one is the closeout of the contract. The budget amendment will make sure that we're able to do that to the order of $267,771. To answer Mr. Fisher's question relative to the funding sources, as you all know, the funding is provided by two agencies, 80% through the federal government, FAA, and 20% local match provided by the airport.
I have a question.
So, Councilman Dunlap?
Yes, you mentioned back orders, inability of the contractor to get the work done based on a schedule apparently they presented to the city?
That would be correct. In addition, ma'am, to amplify that point, in this instance, there was an owner that had been scheduled in the beginning. Due to scheduling conflicts, we had to push him back to the end of the group, and there was approximately 45, if I'm not mistaken. And rather than having the contract end in the spring of last year, it ended up going to September of last year.
Just because of the one?
Yes, ma'am. It was a complicated job with some other additional work that had to get done.
So then you believe then that this particular contractor would still be considered a qualified?
Yes, they've been consistent in not only their customer service, but also in their diligence in getting qualified workers on the job.
What is the average length of time from the time the contractor starts working on an individual, if it's a single-family home?
Yes, I believe
from the contractor arriving on the
Right.
scene to being completed?
Technically, the contract states that the performance shall be done within 180 days. That clock starts when our department issues a notice to proceed. Prior to that, we get a notice to proceed from the FAA, who substantiates that this is indeed a qualified contractor. Within 30 to 60 days, orders have been made to secure material and the products. And then we will engage, if it's a single-family home, we're able to do 4 homes in 1 week to start off, and we'll probably finish 2 of those homes, and then we'll proceed through the balance of the month to get as many as we can, opening no more than 4 per week. Sometimes it's 2. If we're doing a multifamily building, it's possible to have us open 3 or 4 units at a time and then get them all done because we're not dealing with a lot of rear entry doors or additional windows. We're just dealing with the primary bathroom,
That would be
bedroom.
multi-residential you're talking
But
about.
so that
Obviously, it's far less complicated. Well, I just want to make a comment with regard, in general, with regard to our sound insulation program.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is that I think we can do a whole lot better than what we've been doing. And I want the public to know that there are those cities, some who are completely finished, so I'm not talking about a current program, but a past program that I looked into prior to us even starting ours. And even though Mr. Calzado mentioned 180 days, he was referencing a whole lot of paperwork. When he finally got down to sort of better responding to the question I meant to ask with regard to the physical, meaning when the contractor arrives at the house to do the work. Generally speaking, within a month they finish those 4. Within the month they would finish 4. I want to say that the program we should have been emulating was a program by which when the contractor knocked on the resident's door to actually start the installation, they were finished in 24 hours. 24 hours, and that's the program we should have emulated. 24 hours, fantastic work, no complaints, no leaking windows, no broken air conditioners, and I'm just saying we can always do better. This council needs to look into what we can do to assist the department to do it better. And I think that's our role here as policymakers, to make sure we are doing it better and that we give you the resources and the help that you need to make sure it is done better so that our residents can receive the assistance that they need, that they've been waiting years and years and years for. And I do hope we have changed the policy. Have we not, Mr. Calzada, regarding single-family homes having priority? Single-family home.
Well, we have a number of bid documents already in preparation, so once we start inviting new groups, yes, that will be the case.
Okay, well, I guess it took, a dozen years before we once again did that aspect right, meaning I always believed that a single-family home should have priority, and other cities do that as well. A single-family home, meaning somebody's purchased their home, they've lived there, they should have a priority, as opposed to multi-unit residential, which is 20, 30, 40 units at a time, but people could have only lived there a couple months for all extent and purposes. Not that they shouldn't be done, but someone who actually has an investment in the community should always receive that consideration from us first. Like I said, it took a dozen years, but apparently we're going to start doing that. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Calzada, for your report.
Comment, Mayor?
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you. Actually, this was a unique project because this was one of those that I recall that the bid went out, and based upon the architect design, only discovered that Southern California Edison required upgrades because where they were going to put the air conditioning on the roofs. You remember that?
Yes.
And as a consequence, they had to move the air conditioning locations, and also they had to do a grading or going into the ground to move like 200 feet of power lines, I recall. And then also it was determined that some of the housing component, the wiring inside of it was not capable of handling the power source to be able to pull down it, so it required modification of that as well. That's why we was having these challenges, and because Southern California Edison was delaying on approving certain projects, certain part of it to be done, it delayed it even more.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Franklin. Unfortunately, I think you are thinking of another group, but last year, the issue of our coordination with the utility came to the fore. And so those circumstances, while it was significant in Group 9.12, I think you were referring to the multifamilies on Larch Street.
Yes, correct.
That was a significantly large project. There was some coordination issues with this as well because of our need to replace electrical systems and upgrading meters.
Okay,
but that is even underscores what you're saying.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
Well, I'm the person that asked for it to be pulled.
I didn't get to you yet? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, my colleagues have gone over quite a few of my topics, but I must say this, Mr. Calzada.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
there was a town hall meeting that took place in June of 2010. And I would like to say this, sir. One thing that I've noticed ever since Wiley Laboratories representative Ms. Wozniak was there, and she gave a detailed overview of what was going on with our sound installation department. We have not awarded one contract to Wiley. That concerns me. And also,
there's been no contracts to let.
I've approved.
There's been no contracts relating to the design work that Wiley is qualified to do. There's been no contracts.
Since June 2010? There hasn't been any new contracts.
There's no contracts.
No contracts have gone out for design.
There's no contracts under consideration at this moment.
No contracts have gone out for design.
Correct.
None for engineering.
That's correct.
Okay, sir. I beg to differ with you, but for right now, I do not have the documents in front of me. But I must say this to you, sir. We are now going to make single-family homes a priority. It should not have taken this long. My question to you is this: how long were they in the process? When did they initially submit their claim that they wish to
You mean the contractor?
participate? No, I'm talking about the residents. The residents who were sound insulated, when did they initially say, yes, I wish to participate in the program? When was that? What year?
Well, I'm not certain about the members of this particular group, but I know that within our database there are homes that applied in 2007. I still don't have bid groups going out.
But when do you think these people did?
It could be as early as 2002. It could be 2005. I have no way of telling you at the moment, but I know that these people have been waiting a very, very long time, and I think they're thankful that the work is done now.
2002, how does a person have to wait from 2002 to 2012, 10 years, to have something done that in other municipalities it is done within 1 year, the entire process? How does that happen? Is that a result of not submitting grant applications timely? How does that, what do I tell my residents to justify this to them? Because they're asking me.
There is no justification for it, sir.
You know, people who have been, and then this doesn't even account for the amount of time that they had to wait, Mr. Calzada, for their sound installation. At one time, the city had a policy of only sound insulating commercial, only land acquisition. They only wish to acquire land acquisition. 100% of all residential sound insulation, of all sound insulation money, noise mitigation funds, were allocated totally for land acquisition, which is how all that property along Century Boulevard, most of it was acquired. But my question is, they've been waiting that long. And then for someone to have started in this process, as you correctly say, 2003, and not until now, you said 2002, but it's 2003, and not until now do they get their home sound insulated. I have people who are in their 70s, and they're saying, Councilman, when can I have my home sound insulated? I've paid my taxes. I've filled out my forms, and it all rests with you, Mr. Calzada. Mr. Calzada, it all rests with you. And so I want to ask you this: you have obtained this funding here. Why have we not applied for more funding for our homes to be sound insulated? What has been the problem? Why haven't we been able to do that?
In point of fact, there's a $20 million application sitting before the Pacific Division Office of the FAA. They will not release that funding until the central office has allowed them to do so. That might fund upwards of 400 to 600 homes.
That's great. Now, why will they not give authorization to release those funds?
Because
what has the city of Inglewood not done?
In respect to the FAA,
in the last 4 years.
In respect to the FAA, we've received on the order of $60 million from the FAA. At this point, given the state of the federal budget, they're very cautious about releasing funds. We've only been able to get on the order of $10 to $12 million a year since I've been on board.
Well, Mr. Calzada, with 22 seconds left, I'd just like for you to go on record. How many grants, how many applications have we delayed? We've delayed 3 years of applications for requesting grant funding, our audit reports. How many years are we delinquent in with our audit reports?
In respect to the LAWA portion of our local match, there have been 3 grant reports that were delayed and not
3 years, right?
Exactly.
Okay, not 3 reports, but 3 years.
Going back to 2004. That had not been submitted in a timely way.
Okay. Now, would that have anything to do with why these people have not received the money necessary for them to have their home sound insulated?
For groups 1 to 102, no. For groups 103 to probably 200, yes.
And that's totally on the shoulders of the city of Inglewood, correct? For not submitting those audit reports timely.
For the inability of the city to produce single audits in a timely fashion from 2006 to 2009, yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mayor, I would just like to go on record and say that we will have all of those audit reports completed by July. So we're...
well, let you guys, I want to say a couple of things. Mr. Calzada.
Yes, sir.
Probably shortly after I took office, we initiated an audit of the program. Is that right?
What I understood, it was a management review. That's
exactly
correct.
A management review. That's more accurate.
Right.
And one of the things that came out of that management review were several things. We discovered one that we hadn't turned in the audit reports that matched our grant implementation plans, so that we could tell LAWA, we told you we'd do these houses, and this is what we did, and this is what we spent. In essence, that's the way it's reconciled. Is that right?
That would be correct.
Okay. And we discovered that this problem had existed for a number of years for a number of reasons. We found out, one, when we changed over from our finance system to the current Eden system, there was a problem with reconciling records.
Correct.
We had prior managers prior to yourself that had not turned in these records. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and completed these audits. We also discovered that we just need to do some things better. Isn't that right?
Oh, many things, yes.
All right. And one of the biggest things that we did, what this council did in years past was to force more homes into design and therefore expend more funds than we would have to do construction in a timely manner. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And what that did in effect, that set expectations, past council's decisions to make people happy by saying your house is being designed, but overloading the system so that we used up money on the design phase, hoping money was coming down the pipeline, and now we couldn't finish people's homes.
That's accurate, sir.
So you combine that with our faux pas in doing our reports in years past, and so what you end up with is a big bottleneck. A lot of houses in design with the expectations that the construction would be done, but now no money to finish them. Isn't that right? Isn't that the long and short of it?
Yes, sir.
And so have we engaged a consultant from Burbank's program to work with us over the last several months to reconcile our records so that we can attempt to apply for a supplemental authorization from LAWA?
Yes, sir.
And that's what Mr. Fields is talking about.
Yes.
So what's happened is over this last year, what we have done, we've studied ourselves, we recognize that we've had some bad problems in the past, and now we're attempting to move forward and fix them. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye. And so I guess 3 is a charm. Item 9.
Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution amending the 2011-2012 fiscal year budget by appropriating funds to reconcile
Microphone,
the
Madam
retention-
City Clerk. Your microphone.
by appropriating funds to reconcile the retention payment request from Carabill Development for construction work on RSI Phase 9, Group 16.
Move items 1 and 2.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Can I ask a
I had a question.
Stevens?
Yes. Did you, Mr. Calzada, would you review?
Yes, sir.
Give us an overview on this one?
Yes, sir. By recognizing in fiscal year 12 the work that has been done for phase 9, for group phase 916, you would be authorizing the payment of $459,160 to the contractor for work that was done and completed last year. I believe this includes two progress payments and the final retention payment.
Mr. Calzada.
Yes, sir.
Does this have anything to do with those grant reports that were not filed?
Nothing whatsoever.
No? What year were those grant reports not filed, those 3 years?
I believe it's for grant implementation for residential sign installation LAWA Grant 5 from 2004-2005. There's another one that's due for Grant Implementation Plan 5, RSI LAWA Grant 6 from 2006-2007. And there would be one more RSI 8 from 2008 to 2009.
Okay, and they were not filed. These audit reports were not filed, correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, and was that on your watch?
Only since 2010, when I was made aware that there was no records for us to reconcile against our financial statements, yes.
When did you become the director of residential sound installation?
I took office the first week of June 2008.
2008. And what years again were those 3 years?
2004 to 2005, 2006 to 2007, and 2008 to 2009.
Okay, and when we submit these reports, this is for work that has been done 2 years prior, right?
No, it's for reporting out work that has been completed, and we're obligated under the letter of agreement to produce them within a short time frame after the last payment has been made. So it's yeah.
After the last payment has been made?
Correct.
But the initial payments were started how many years prior?
Up to 4 years.
Up to 4 years?
Correct.
Okay. So you might not have received, you would receive something from 2004. You came on in 2008, was you said?
That would be correct.
Okay, so you were responsible for the audit reports for those years then, weren't you?
Yes, if there was a financial statement prepared, those reports that were required in order for us to prepare our grant reports were not done and authorized or certified by the council until 2010.
Okay, Ms. Calzada, thank you.
I have a...
Councilwoman Dunlap?
Yes, We do have differences of opinion up here. What some would call faux pas, I consider gross negligence. With regard to multi-unit residential, has there been any change? I mean, I've spoken many times, and I want to know if there's been any change, Mr. Calzada, with regard to multi-unit residential. I've brought to administration's attention many times over the life of our program that when we've gone into multi-unit residential properties, not all of them, of course, but we've gone into many of them. I've spent $18,000 to $24,000 per apartment, for heaven's sakes. What the owners have done is evicted the tenants and raised the rent. So we've remodeled their whole building for them at the expense of Inglewood residents. Very costly to Inglewood residents, the people who have lived here. And we have no kind of rent controls or anything. People can be evicted for any reason. You don't have to have a cause here. You can just say, give them a 30 or 60-day notice to quit, and they have to leave. And these are people, many times, if they chose to live in certain buildings in the noise contours because their rent was less and they could afford it. So what we did was displace many, many families with no compensation of any kind. They were just evicted. So we benefited absentee landlords at the expense of people who live here. Now, did this happen all the time? No, but enough that I became aware of it, and I found it to be reprehensible, and I want to make sure that we're not continuing to sound insulate buildings without some kind of guidelines put into place, or to find out what we can do legally. Because if we spend all this money on a building and just allow people to evict all the tenants, I've got a real problem with that. And it's unethical, it's immoral, it's horrible. So I want us to look into that, Mr. Calzada, if you can't respond to it right now, to make sure we put something into effect, whatever we can legally. After all, these are federal, 80% of the money is federal. The feds, they give us money. The feds give us money to provide affordable housing opportunities in other departments. So while we're providing affordable housing opportunities for one family here and one family there and another over here, we're putting into place a set of circumstances allow 20 to 30 families to be evicted? What's the point of it? That means we're not doing something right. So we have to be aware of these things, always looking to resolve issues. And if we learn of it, we have to do something about it. Shouldn't have taken 12 years before we started, or more, I don't know how many, probably more than 12 years, before we started sound insulating single-family homes first. And it definitely shouldn't have taken 12 to 15 years to decide, gosh, maybe we should do something, because when we sound insulate apartment buildings, we displace all the families that are in there. Because the owners raise the rent, substantially raise the rent. The people, they have them move out while the sound insulation is being done, and then they complete any other little things they might want to do to the building, and these people are out of there. And then they raise the rent a substantial amount of money. We've benefited them. It's like a windfall to them. Windfall profits. When, of course, once again, we should have been taking care of families, single-family homes, and taking care of them first. So anyway, if you don't have an answer for that, that's fine. I didn't bring it up ahead of time. But I want to know what we're doing about this. Because anybody who evicts somebody, they have a legal right under the current situation, but we don't have to choose their apartment building either to be sound insulated. So I think we can set some criteria into place. And if so, we need to have a better understanding of what our legal prerogatives are in this regard. Thank you, Mayor.
I want to ask you something, Mr. Calzada.
Yes, sir.
Has this ever come up before? I've only been in council a year, and so apparently we've addressed it now, but has this been brought up before in the last 12 years?
Oh, much earlier than that, too, sir.
Okay. And so then did the council give you direction or the program direction to do single-family homes first? Did that ever occur?
Many of our residents have been suffering from aircraft noise that predates 1984 when we adopted the findings of the airport noise contour land use compatibility study. Mm-hmm. So we identified over 10,000 homes that were adversely affected. The council, by identifying homes to recycle and make into commercial or industrial uses, complied with our agreements with the airport at that point. And then in 1991-92, when we adopted the aircraft noise mitigation plan, we also identified some 8,700 homes to sound insulate. There was guidance under federal law and adopted policy by the airport that directed us to do the noisiest first. And over the years, we've had, as Mr. Stevens has indicated, a change from land recycling into sound insulation. And as Ms. Dunlap indicates, there is greater interest in doing single-family homes. Now that we've done a majority of our westerly neighborhoods, many of our vested single-family homeowners are much more likely to call us up and say, we waited much too long.
Okay, see, I want to give criticism when criticism's due. We definitely, there's criticism for the not reconciling the records and doing the audit reports because money was in the pipeline and money was sitting there, so it kind of papered over this dysfunctionality we had, and that's, you know, what we still continue to deal with. I understand that. But what I don't want you to do is be criticized for an interlaced decision process that demanded that the most noise-impacted areas be done first, and probably by definition, that's going to include more multiple-family residences than it would single-family, because
in some neighborhoods that would be correct.
In some neighborhoods. So I'm asking you, is this an entirely discretionary process, where you can say we're going to do every single-family home before we do an apartment building? Do you have that latitude?
Not under my discretion, and certainly not. It's the LAWA has provided guidance in a flexible manner, so we have to consult with them whenever there's a substantial change to our policies. We did so when we changed our priority from west to east, from the freeway to Prairie, and again from Prairie to Van Ness. And so when we changed from land acquisition to sound installation, we had to inform them, because that provided the pipeline for additional funding.
So there was nothing to stop prior councils from giving you just that direction if they so chose. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was never a part of a discussion.
All right, thank you. Okay, Madam City Clerk.
Excuse me, Mayor, with all due respect.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he's under pressure here. He cannot say, in all honesty, that it was never a part of the discussion. What he can say is the council majority chose to act otherwise. And we immediately, when we started this program in full earnest, Mayor, obviously way before you were here, deliberately took it out of the noisiest first. So please, I mean, obviously you haven't been here long enough to really know all the history, but let me share with you. The law originally said noisiest first. The council majority here originally, they discarded noisiest first almost immediately. So the discussion was here, the will of the majority. Remember, 3 members of this council, but direct policy and set policy for staff to follow. 3 members of this council chose to do exactly what we did in the past.
And actually, we're in agreement, because this is the point that I'm making, that the program has its problems, to be sure, but the council's decision to, one, go from the most noise-impacted areas first, and secondly, and this was a fatal error, to push more homes into the design phase than could reasonably be constructed with the dollars in the pipeline, caused this great queuing, and then ultimately, when everything caught up with us, when those failed processes as far as turning in our audits and stopped those monies, and then we ended up at a standstill. I mean, this is how we got to where we are, but mostly a combination of bad policy decisions and poor record keeping and a poor transition to the Eden system. And that's what we're attempting to fix right now.
Mayor, 30 seconds.
Councilman Morales.
We beat this thing up pretty good. We recognize why we haven't been able to really apply for more LAWA and federal funding. We're on our way to fixing that. Most of the decisions, Ms. Dunlap was very accurate in terms of the council's decision. Most of them were done before any of us were on this council. She was maybe the only one present at the time. But I can go on record right now and say that I support noisiest first. Noisiest first would be great. And let me tell you, Ms. Dunlap, if that's in terms of a motion, I'll second that motion. Noisiest first.
Oh, as it always should have been. It's not on
I
the floor
agree.
today, but
I agree.
if we want to bring
I
that
agree.
back and write up a policy with some of these
1000%.
changes, I'm all in favor of it. That's great.
Trust me.
So maybe, Mr. Fields, you can come up with a staff report that incorporates Noisys first, as it always should have been.
I agree.
Single-family home first, if we have that authority, and what we can do to keep people from evicting tenants when we redo their apartment buildings.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. Hold on just a second here. The reason why the people to the east were brought in was simply because they were negatively impacted, and because this city had. When did this program start, Mr. Calzada? The actual noise mitigation program. When did it start? In 1980?
No, actually, the national funding was enacted in 1990. Our adopted aircraft noise mitigation plan didn't come into fruition until '92. We had pilot programs for the better part of the 90s.
That was when we sound insulated the 7 homes. But for the most part, we mostly used the money for land acquisition.
Correct. Through the 90s,
it was
we were
not
basically
the city of Inglewood that said that we could actually sound insulate to the east first. It was actually Los Angeles World Airports that gave us permission to do so.
No, it's the city of Inglewood Council under Roosevelt Dorn presented.
And there was nothing wrong with that. But they anticipated that we were going to do it simultaneously, the west and the east merging to the center. That's how it was supposed to happen. Instead, what ended up happening was the money, for whatever the reasons was, I was going to say, but let me just say this to you, Council. There's a lot of history involved in this, and I have the documentation in my garage to prove it to you. But there's a lot more to this than just simply this. And the entity that gave us authorization for starting to the east was not the city. It was actually Los Angeles World Airports, because they had to actually sign off on it. And I believe the FAA did also.
They
just said because it was
that decision. Since we're on my time, let me just finish this up.
Well, excuse me, sir. I apologize.
No, that's okay. No problem. I'll give you all my time, actually.
No.
But here's the point we're making. There are political decisions involved in the implementation of any program where millions of dollars are available, and those political decisions arise from the politics of votes. They arise from the distribution of money to contractors. That's why we have 4 contractors instead of 1. All these things come into play. It's a fact of life when large amounts of money are decided upon by a small group of people. And what we end up is with this effort at making sausage, and that's what you're seeing. So to think that our employees, while they have accountability, are responsible for where we found ourselves when I came into office a year ago, that's not fair. In fact, some of these policies benefited actually District 1 because the council decided to go away from most noise impacted and go to where the majority of voters were. So there's no purity in this process, and what we're attempting to do now is to put it back on track, attempting to reclaim our claim to dollars that have been lost, and to bring rationality to the system. But I would caution everyone to make motions because be careful what you wish for, because someone's going to be impacted that was going to receive something earlier. So that's the only thing I say. So if we make a motion and second it for most noise impacted first, there are going to be unintended consequences, and they're going to affect people in District 1, I believe.
In all fairness, there was unintended consequences when the change was made.
Right, exactly.
But you voted for it, Councilman. Councilman Morales, you supported that.
No, I wasn't
simultaneous.
Here. I wasn't here.
All right. Okay, so anyway, there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Well, I would ask that we have more research done on who is actually going to be impacted.
Councilman, I didn't hear you. Go ahead.
I would like to make say that we should restructure that to first find out who is going to be impacted, so that everyone on the dais truly understands that when you revert to what was supposedly what we were supposed to be doing all along, when you revert back to that strategy, who exactly is going to be negatively impacted in this community, and you would then have to remove those individuals from having their home sound insulated, People who are already in this, well, if you're going to start from the west, then those individuals who are already in the pipeline, they would have to be restructured. Is that not correct?
No, that's not necessary.
Okay, so then every person who is now on the waiting list, they would be pushed further back. Is that correct, Mr. Calzada?
Not necessarily.
No. Let Mr. Calzada answer, Ms. Dunlap. I know you want to bring this motion forward, but
No, there's no
this is something that the people need to know.
Councilman?
Yes.
Councilman, if I could recommend something. First, I think I would hope that we could withdraw the motion and just basically, this is a direction to staff to give us some more information about what the potentiality of going to such a system would do, what it would do to different people on the waiting list, and so that we avoid the purely political decisions that have, thrown things out of kilter so far. That's a recommendation.
That would be fine, Mr. Mayor, but I would just like to have if you could give me a 2-week notice of when you're going to bring that before council, so I can have every one of those individuals who have been contacted by the city of Inglewood to have their home sound insulated, they can be here front and center, including in Community Room A, so they can see the individuals who wish to bring forward such a motion.
Councilman Morales.
I'm sorry, Mr. Franklin.
I haven't spoken at all. I've been patiently waiting,
Then it's now your turn.
biting my tongue, and I must say I'm appalled with the discussion going on that something that has been going on for decades, and been multiple changes, including the other subject matter has been addressed, which is the end of the block program or discretionary funding that's been made available, and then to have a council member that doesn't have any residents that are in the sound path to then support motions for something that's going to impact these residents that four of these members of this council do represent, that is a major concern on my part, and to have that identified that the most noise impact first sends the wrong message to what the council has done on previous occasions and this current council. So I welcome the mayor's comments about, okay, let's be fair about it and let's send it back to staff for assessment. But if you're calling for a motion and that's for us to act upon the noises first, I have issues.
No,
thank
you.
No, it wasn't.
I think someone did say the word motion, but it's not necessary.
I'll clarify.
Okay.
Well, you said if you made it a motion.
I did hear that. Go ahead, Councilman
What I
Morales.
said was if Ms. Dunlap had made the motion.
Oh, yeah.
I would
And I
have
just
seconded.
said, bring it back
But
with some
that,
information.
correct. But, this discussion, it shows really how some of us, you need to study the issue before you come on out and you say, hey, this is how we should do it. The truth of the matter is those decisions were made many years ago before any of us were here except Ms. Dunlap. I believe you were the only one here. And the problem with that is that they were made based on, political decisions. That's what happened. So when we came in, we could have shifted it over, but we understood that we couldn't follow that whole line of theory. So we just kept pushing for the program to improve. When this issue keeps coming up, it becomes a situation where you have to say, hey, okay, if that's what you want, if we want to do that, then we have to do it all the way. And you have to be fair to residents all across the city of Inglewood, not just in one area. So what I'm saying is if we're going to shift the way we do things and bring it back, if that's the discussion, then okay, let's open up the complete discussion and be fair to the entire city of Inglewood, because that's where the effect happens. So in regards to would the people in the pipeline get stopped, the answer is no, they would continue in the process. But let's not pretend that this isn't about pushing one area over the other. Okay, let's not pretend that that's not what's happening here. So if that's what we're calling for, then let's make it fair.
Okay, I'm gonna finish my time.
For the record, it is fair, and I sat in that audience right there all through the years. So, this is something that I was here for. I just wasn't here. I was out there. So, and we fought for that. The presidents of this community fought for it, and I'm very surprised at you, Ms. Dunlap.
Okay, but anyway, I'm going to finish my little time, which has been interrupted, and say this. Look, and this is emblematic of what happens. There's no recognition that basically politics is the method in this country we decide the distribution of resources. And what happens over time and over the years, different decisions are made based on the people that are sitting in the seats, based on what they think they're trying to accomplish for their residents. And then you end up with changes and shifts, and you have staff attempting to bend and flow with what the policymakers want. But the reality is that's what happens. And so we in our community, what I've noticed since I've been on the council is this attempt to vilify people in the past, when basically sometimes they were just up here making decisions based on what the people they represented wanted. And sometimes they were making decisions, excuse me, you guys, sometimes they were making decisions based on economic concerns. But what that has the potential to do, when you keep twisting and turning staff, you lose efficiency, you generate mistakes, you generate confusion. And so that's why I say you have to be very cautious about the broad statements you make. There's no absolute evil in these processes. There's no absolute good. And we tend to try and make everything black and white. It's not, that's not that way. It's much more complex. So we're going to just give you direction to give us more information about the impact of going to that policy, and both the policy on going single-family residences first and most noise impacted first, what impact that would have. And I think what we're going to find is we don't want to handcuff ourselves with absolutes like that, because you will always have the law of unintended consequences. You'll solve one problem and create others. So I think more information is necessary. And Councilman,
what about the apartment owners being able to evict?
Oh, well, actually what we should do, if we can, if there's any data on the rate of reoccupancy that occurs when tenants are relocated from an apartment building, and how many actually return.
Yeah, they're not relocated, they're evicted.
Well, I mean, how many return after the work is done? I don't know. Do we even have any way to get that information?
Well, I want to know, do we have any parameters to prevent it?
Okay. And then what measures can we take legally to prevent it?
Okay.
All right.
And can we add a caveat of a 2-week notice of when he'll be bringing this before the council?
Well, actually, Mayor, if I may,
Because sometimes we do not receive, because we
What-
sometimes do not receive our agenda packets until Saturday. Council meeting is on Tuesday.
Mayor, because of the high level of interest in this topic and so many things that really need to be discussed, I would like this body just to think about right now, not necessarily to set it, but I would like to actually have like a public meeting, like on a Saturday, to allow people who have an interest to express it before we make any decision, have all the information to present, almost like a public workshop where the council is there, not to make a decision at that time, but get input to hear everything and make it an event for full participation. These chambers are not large enough, and a regular meeting would not give the time I think something like this needs for an open public discussion. So if my colleagues would consider like a Saturday workshop type event where all the council is there and the public is all invited,
Okay.
at the expense of the city administrator's office, not our own accounts, to get people there to speak to these matters.
Council, what I'd rather do is get the information, and we can make a decision on what form we're going to use, whether it be a council meeting or a workshop. But so the direction of staff is get us the answer to those questions and to our office, all right? And we won't schedule anything, Councilman Stevens, until you feel you've had adequate notice. All right, Madam City Clerk. So it's, I guess this action is no action.
No, but there's a motion.
There was a motion on.
Oh, because that's the
Item
motion.
9 that had nothing to do with
That has nothing.
Yeah, nothing to do with our discussion.
Nothing to do with our discussions. All right. Okay, so then, did you call the roll for item 9 yet?
No.
We have a first and a second.
Councilmember Stevens?
Item 9 without the motion, correct? Madam City Clerk?
The motion that I have,
It's
after
1 and
all
2.
of that you said,
I'm asking to the City Clerk.
It's one and two.
it's 1 and 2.
It's the agenda item.
Aye.
Thank you. Done that.
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Bucks?
Aye. 01.
Staff report recommending adoption of an ordinance number 1215 to approve zone change 129 to rezone the property located at 8090 South Crenshaw from R1 to R3.
Okay, we're going to continue it to July 10th, 2012, but it's my understanding that the owners have agreed to provide a covenant letter stating that they have no intention and will not build multifamily housing on the property. But we'll have to, since we said we were going to
I'll just
hold it
make a
over.
quick comment on that.
Okay,
I
quick
appreciate that on their part. I hope it was made very clear to them that the response of this body with regard to potential action to take was not contingent upon them placing such a covenant on their property.
I don't know. Okay.
Well, I hope not.
Okay, all right.
Hope they didn't feel that way.
Okay, O2.
Staff report recommending adoption of 5 ordinances related to levy special tax for each of 5 improvement areas.
Motion to waive further reading on that.
I want a staff report before we do
Okay,
that.
hold on. Can I get you guys?
Okay. I'll second. So this is the motion to waive further reading.
Yeah, but I want a staff report, and let me just say that my first comment is I believe these should have all been agendized separately. Okay, second to that, I want a staff report with regard to this item.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Quiggy.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is the second reading of the ordinance to adopt 5 ordinances related to levying special taxes for each of the 5 improvement areas of the Community Facilities District 2010-01 for Hollywood Park. In December of 2010, the Community Facilities District was formed. On May 8th of 2012, a public hearing was set for June 12th to hear the first reading of this ordinance. In addition, there were several resolutions that were approved that evening where the landscape and lighting district was detached, and also a resolution was approved to amend the rate, the method and rate apportionment for each one of the 5 improvement districts. The first reading of the ordinances were done on June 12th, and what you have in front of you is the second reading of those 5 ordinances to levy those special taxes.
Thank you.
Actually, I believe, in addition to the finance, I'd like somebody to talk about the Melrose district. Can you speak to that?
Our bond counsel here, Kevin Hale, he's probably...
Okay, the clock is going to stop. We're on a staff report, if you don't mind, please. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members, Kevin Hale with Orrick, Harrington, and Sutcliffe.
Describe to the council once again with regard to Melrose Facilities District. So they have an
Describe the nature of the
understanding.
district?
Describe it, yes. So they understand the purpose of this item before us.
The item before you is the ordinance for the annual levy of the Melrose tax in this Community Facilities District with its 5 improvement areas. This is a special tax. It is the result of a vote of the landowner in that district.
Okay, actually, I couldn't hear you either, so could you repeat it? They couldn't hear you, and I couldn't
Is
actually
there an
hear
issue
you.
with the mic?
You have to kind of bend down,
I
sorry.
beg your pardon, everybody. I'm a little hoarse tonight. The Melrose Act provides for the levy of a special tax. It's an ad valorem tax on the land. It is put in place by a vote of the landowners within an established community facilities district. The district was established in 2010 by vote of the landowners. Within the district are 5 separate improvement areas. It is essentially a matter of phasing of that Hollywood Park development that there is the 5 areas.
And the landowners you're talking about who took this vote consists of who?
The Hollywood Park
All right, so it's actually
ownership.
one entity voted. They voted. Okay, now I'm going to speak to this. When this came before the council for the first reading, a lot of statements were made, and I want to kind of correct the record. This is not about saving Inglewood residents from having to pay things at Hollywood Park and having the people there pay for it. This is about a development that's going to pass on such high costs, up to and over $6,000 per home, additional to a house payment and normal taxes, to live there. What this is to finance the acquisition and construction of certain public facilities and improvements, infrastructure. Typically, developers pay this themselves. But if a developer doesn't choose, either they don't have the resources, they choose not to, they can, if they get things like this adopted, pass it on to future property owners. And that's my concern. As I've stated before, where this council's going along with it, they're going along with it again this evening, but I don't support it, and I want to place why on the record. This is not that other Inglewood residents would have to pay certain things if these people don't pay it. That's not true. It has to do with infrastructure for a big project that currently Hollywood Park is pretty much vacant land. It's considered vacant land. So to do any kind of a development, you have to do trenching and put in sewers and power lines and all of those, the sidewalks and streets. Typically, a developer pays for those things themselves. And they pass it on to the purchaser, whether it's commercial land or residential. Melrose allows them to, as the property owner, keep in mind nobody's voting but them. So I want people to know when they say voting, it's just the one Hollywood Park voted for it themselves because they presented evidence to this body that there were less than 12 registered voters on that whole site. Of which, by the way, there's 15, but several of those 15 are considered inactive. They're still registered, but they're considered inactive. But that's another point. I'm very concerned about this particular project becoming, what do I say, unsold, meaning what could be a wonderful project and what looks on paper, the design, it looks fabulous. But you can't price people out of the market. You can't price people out of the market. We have, oh my goodness, several hundred homes in the Renaissance in foreclosure, been foreclosed upon. This is not good for the city of Inglewood. And for this project to price themselves out of the market, once again, it's $6,000 and more additional fees to a homeowner. Can you imagine, all of you out there in the audience, in addition to your house payment, in addition to your property taxes, you get a bill for another $6,000 to pay for the sewer and water lines and the street and the sidewalks that were put in before you moved in? How long could you afford to do that? This goes on for a long time. By the way, what is the time frame typically for a Melrose?
Typically 30 or 45 years.
30 or 45 years. So we're not talking about 5 years or 10 years, 30 to 45 years. And I actually posed the question when we had all of the people from Hollywood Park, corporate, and their bankers and brokers and people sitting in the audience. I asked them, how many of you live in a Melrose facilities district where you live? Not a single hand went up. Because I don't think any of them want to pay 2.2% interest on their property when they only have to pay 1 point something based on where they live. And I know people in real estate as well, all over the state of California, and they will tell me as a broker that they have clients who will come to them maybe in the home market and say, I'm looking for a home, and maybe they have a lot of money to spend, maybe at the high end of the market, but you know one of the first questions they ask? Is it in a Melrose facilities district? Because it is, don't show it to me, because I don't want to see it. It prohibits buyers from coming in. That's my concern. Do I understand why the Hollywood Park Tomorrow project is doing this? Yes, because it makes economic good sense to them. I understand that. They're in business to make money, and if they can use other people's money to build a part of their project, I understand that. But I believe we have a different calling up here. Our calling is to represent not only the residents of this community and the business people of this community who live here and work here today, but those people who are going to live here tomorrow, who want to invest in our community and buy a home and raise their families. And that's why I'm voting no on all of these tonight, except for the waiving of the further reading. I'll vote yes. Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
I have a comment.
Councilman Stevens.
Yes, I've researched this issue. And I must say that I've wavered from being opposed, support it. But I must say this to you, sir. If you can just answer this one question for me. When it comes to this lighting assessment district, who actually, when the assessments are collected, who will manage the money? Who will actually be in control of the money? The homeowners association, or if there are no homes that are built there? Well, you just answered the question, sir.
I can't speak to if homes are not built, there will not be taxes levied.
Well, you can actually apply. You can actually. What do bonds here? We're dealing with bonds.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually start the process for selling of the bonds without having anything built there on the Melrose, because it is in fact vacant land. Correct?
You have a landowner who could be the taxpayer.
Mm-hmm. But you have vacant land. It is not necessary for you to sell the bonds. In order for you to sell the bonds, you do not have to have a structure built on the property. You can do it strictly, totally on the basis of that it is vacant land.
Yes.
Okay. So my concern is this, is that we do not have any starting date of when this project is to start. There's nothing listed in any of the volumes of documentation that I've received that says on, let's say, January 1st, 2014, 2013, this project will commence. There's no date. Do you have a date?
I'm not the developer. I'm counsel to the city. So
Okay.
I
Have they
answer-
told you of a date? Have they
Yes,
told
we do
you
have
of
a
a date?
We do have a date, and one of the representatives from the development company is here, but I do believe that they're going to start construction in January of next year.
Well, that's just for the grading of the property.
Right.
I'm talking about actually
housing.
building actual homes on the site.
For your understanding, Mr. Stevens, that the tax is typically levied on developed property. That's the phasing of the levy of the tax. Building permits are pulled, and at that point, as the development is moving towards sold units, the tax would be levied. And the timing of the issuance of your bonds and the like are worked out on a schedule that anticipates revenues coming from homeowners.
Okay.
In order to have the bonds rated and to have this issue saleable, there needs to be a level of development.
Okay. So here's my issue is that we could actually merge this lighting assessment district with one of our existing lighting assessment districts. Well, we have no. We could, yes, but we could have merged this district with our other lighting assessment districts, and then the funding, the money that is generated from this assessment, whether something is built on it or not, could actually serve the residents of the city.
The
As
lighting
opposed to
assessment,
just isolating it just to Hollywood Park.
it really isn't isolated. The lighting and landscape district that we're talking about is citywide, and there were discussions between the developer, Hollywood Park, and Public Works Department to deal with financial issues that were strapping the current lighting and landscaping district, which doesn't have an escalating clause to cover all of its costs. That portions of the district that Hollywood Park would sit on could be moved to the taxing formula for Hollywood Park and arrive at additional revenues to cover those costs for services, lighting that is currently covered by the lighting and landscaping district and some thoroughfare
And
maintenance.
so that would be independent, correct. That would be independent, but it does not have to. If we were to keep it combined with our existing assessments, our lighting assessments,
Your vote no would have that.
then we would then be able to, when everything is developed, that money could be used to assist other areas. For specifically lighting. It cannot be spent outside of its purpose. But when you isolate it just to Hollywood Park, then this money is only spent on Hollywood Park's property. Now, the other question I want to ask you is this. The alternative to us voting on this is actually to let the people of Inglewood vote on it. Isn't that correct? Place it on the ballot and allow them to vote
Like
on it.
any other issue before you, I don't know how to
No.
distinguish. I don't know how to
Well,
distinguish that.
there's two types of ways, Ms. Dunlap. One is that, of course, the 15 people, but under Melrose, they made reference to an actual election that is governed by the lead agency, by the local agency. So that would be, in fact, the city of Inglewood.
No, it would be, if I may.
You may.
It would be, as it is right now, based on what they submitted under the public record, under the public hearing, it would be the registered voters in the boundary. If it's 12, if
That's
it's
the
less.
one method.
That's correct. If it's less than 12, then the property owner can vote, and that's Hollywood Park, and they've already placed a ballot with the city, as was referenced at the public hearing. So they're the ones. The general public would never have the legal authority to vote on other people's taxes. They can
But-
only vote on taxes that they're going to have to pay.
But if we allowed this not to be isolated and merged with other lighting assessments throughout the city of Inglewood, then they would.
I don't-
We understand. I have a lighting assessment on my property tax bill. This should be part of my lighting assessment. My lighting assessment should be merged with this.
Okay.
So that then that way, so for the Hollywood Park property, for the assessments for this assessment here. you see.
I
What you're
can't
instead
speak-
going to do is you're going to take the assessments and use that assessment to pay off bonds for an entity that said that they had the money to build this project.
No.
They said that they had the money to build this initially. They told the residents of the city of Inglewood, we have the revenue to build this project.
There are many components to the special tax. The component that is lighting and landscaping or thoroughfare maintenance is separate from the component that goes to bonds. There are several components to the amount of the special tax. Ms. Dunlap took us through that on a previous evening. The bond component is a debt service component that is not what we're talking about here, which is limited to the portion that would cover what would equate to what the lighting and landscaping district has been paying.
Okay. Madam City Clerk.
Okay, let's do this.
The motion to waive further reading.
Right, we can do
For
all of those.
all of them?
Well, that's the
And then
motion.
we need to do individually the adoptions.
Right, but
Okay.
this is the
So
waive
all of
further
them would be
reading.
1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And there's a,
It's been moved by
There's
Mr.
such a
Morales,
motion
second by
already.
Morales,
To
and who
wait-
second? I'm
The
sorry.
mayor.
The
Then
mayor.
I'm mayor to
Thank
waive
you.
further reading.
Okay. Councilman Stevens.
No.
Okay. Dunlap.
Don't need to vote anymore.
Well, wait, this is way further reading?
This is for the
Excuse me,
reading,
Miss
not the
Madam City Clerk.
adoption.
I apologize. Aye.
Dunlap.
Excuse me.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
Okay, now for the adoption on number 1212, levying special tax for improvement 1.
I so move.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
On adoption, on item number 4, adopt ordinance number 1213, levy special taxes for improvement area number 2.
I so move.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
Motion, I'm sorry,
Number
on
6.
12th, ordinance number 1214, levy tax for improvement area number 3.
I so move.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
This one was taken, I don't know why that happened, but adopt ordinance number 1211, levy tax, special tax for improvement area number 4.
I so move.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmembers Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
And the last one, adopt ordinance number 1216, levy taxes for improvement area number 5.
So move.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. CM1. Well, before we do that, let's
You
go to...
want to go back to 3?
Hmm? Oh, yeah, we're going to go back to 3. There's item 3 of consent calendar. We have the information about the location of the businesses slash members of the proposed members for the South Bay Work Investment Board. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor and City Council, we did contact the South Bay Investment Board representative, and we were informed that
We can't hear you. Please.
we did contact the South Bay Investment Board representative, and we were informed that all of the appointments are made through the Chamber of Commerce. The appointments are members of the Chamber of Commerce. They have businesses in the city. All the ones listed in the staff report do have businesses except for AT&T. That is their representative. That's the city's representative. So they either have to have a business in the city or represent the business interest of a business in the city.
I have a question.
Councilman Dunlap.
Yes, I actually already was aware of the fact that they're all members of the Airport Area Chamber of Commerce. And I think most everything else, I mean, I had an understanding that was always the case. I think the question, at least that I had, was what are the governing rules with regard to these appointments? Do they have to be members of the local Chamber of Commerce? that was my question. I wanted to know the parameters of the selection process. And actually, because I already knew that they were nominated by the chamber because that's what it says.
Well, we were told that the criteria that they use to nominate someone is that they have a business in the city.
No, I understand that's why the chamber would have that criteria.
Okay.
Actually, regardless of what action the council takes tonight, because they're probably going to move forward, Mr. Fields, I still have the same request I had before. I want to know, what are the other cities who are members? Do they have any written criteria? And do we have any? I recognize the chamber, of course. They make a selection, but I want to know, do all cities, is it actually always done through the chamber? We have lots of businesses in the city of Inglewood that are not a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So obviously, if they're a member of the chamber, that's a great reference for them. It means they participate, they come to meetings, and they know all about our city. But I'm just saying, I want to know, are there any regulations or requirements
Okay.
from the workforce investment? I still want that information, regardless of, I'm assuming this council is going to move forward. I still want that information.
Okay. We have enough information to vote now, so.
And we already have a motion.
We already have a motion and a second, I believe. So, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Betts?
Aye. Let's adjourn the city council open the City of Inglewood as a successor agency. And Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll?
Quorum is present.
On CSA 2, I believe that you only want to approve the minutes for June 5th, 2012. Is that correct?
No. Those are fine.
Those are fine?
Yes.
Okay, so CSA 2.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Agency members, Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Chairman Betts?
Aye. CSA 3.
Monthly Treasurer's Report for the month ending March 31st, 2012.
Receive and file. Adjourn the City of Inglewood as successor agency. Call to order the Inglewood Housing Authority. Madam City Clerk.
A quorum is present.
H2.
Mayor, may I just ask
Yes,
a
sir,
question?
Councilman.
I just want a point of clarity, because if we pull the minutes
Those are
of the council, won't it also encumber or include these other agencies?
No. They're separate. They're separate minutes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. No, they're separate
thank-
minutes.
Thank you, Councilman. H2.
Approval of the minutes June 5th, 2012, and June 12th, 2012.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Agency members, Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Chairman Betts?
Aye. H3.
Monthly Treasurer's Report for the month ending March 31st, 2012.
Receive and file. Adjourn the Inglewood Housing Authority. Convene the Inglewood Public Financing Authority. Madam City Clerk.
A quorum is present.
F1.
Approval of the minutes held June 12th, 2012.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Agency members, Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Chairman Betts?
Aye. F2.
Monthly Treasurer's Report for the month ending March 31st, 2012.
Receive and file. Adjourn the Inglewood Public Financing Third Authority. We're back to the session of Inglewood City Council.
A quorum is present.
CM1.
No verbal reports, Mayor.
A1.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. There was a closed session held as to CS1 closed session, personnel exemption under Government Code Section 54957, selection of Public Works Director. Discussions were held, however, no final action was taken. There was a closed session held as to CS2, closed session confidential attorney-client privilege pending litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9A, Nina Shaw. Request a motion to authorize settlement.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members, Stevens?
Aye.
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor Betts?
Aye.
There was a closed session held as to CS3, closed session, confidential attorney-client privilege, pending litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9A, Yesenia Montoya versus City of Inglewood. Request a motion to authorize settlement offer.
So moved. Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Aye.
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 There was a closed session held as to CS4, closed session, confidential, attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, CEA / IMEA, decertification petition, representation election regarding the general non-management employee unit currently represented by SEIU. Discussions were held, however, no final action was taken. There was a closed session held as to CS5, closed session, confidential, attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, claim of Manning and Cass, Elrod, Ramirez, and Tester, LLP. Request a motion to authorize payment of billings.
So moved. Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
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 There was a closed session held as to CS6, closed session, confidential, attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, claim of Macro Pro. Request a motion to authorize payment of billings.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
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 Mayor Butts?
Aye.
There was a closed session held as to CS7, closed session, confidential, attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, claim of Robert Wilson, M.D. Request motion to authorize payment of billings.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Butts?
Aye.
CS8 was pulled. There was a closed session held as to CS9, closed session, confidential, attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, claim for damages, 737 North La Brea, LLC. Request motion to authorize refund payment.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Butts?
Aye.
That concludes reports out of closed session for this evening. Mr. Mayor, there are no verbal reports.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. CC1?
I just want to say, if at all possible, we can get something going with this, because I can't hear you guys sometimes when I'm on this end, and that's why I always say, I can't hear you, I can't hear you.
I hear you. I think it's just a function of money.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, forget it.
Okay, all right. All right. CT1, Madam City Treasurer.
Councilman, please pass these down.
The Treasurer's report for the month ending March 31st, 2012.
Receive and file. Verbal report CT2.
Yes, I have a brief treasurer's report for the month of March. Also, I have them on the stands outside for the public to follow along with me. The funds under management for the City of Inglewood, it was $85,521,913, and the interest earnings $17,425. Successor agency $108,779,331, and the funds, the interest earnings $1,091. And again, keep in mind that these funds are under the invested with the trustees, so they're invested in accordance to the bond covenant, the bond document. Housing Authority $101. Public Finance Authority $2,533,888. Total funds under management is $196,952,633. And also, I would like to point out the bonds that's available is there's none in the 1-year category at all, and in the 2-year category the rates continue to be very low, 0.35 to 0.45, and in the 3-year category again very low, 0.56 to 0.80, and in the 4-year category 0.85 to 1%. There was one offered a little bit higher, but it was at a premium, and the 5-year category 1.05 to about 1.50. And the state rate, even though it has, I think, roughly about $60 billion of funds under management, is 0.36, and the quarterly is 0.37.
And also the payments of the bills for the city for the month of May was 11.3. Net payroll was 2.5, and the total for the month was 13.8 million. For the month of June thus far, it's 11.8 million, and net payroll 2.5. Total for the month thus far is 14.3. And also, I generally get calls regarding settlements and claims for the city, and I'll just read a few of them. $60,000 on June 21st for Carlin and Bachman. And on May 1st for this fiscal year was $1 million to Gerard versus City of Inglewood. And Woods versus City of Inglewood in March was $20,000. And Ortega versus City of Inglewood, $650,000. That was November the 9th of 2011. And also with regards to a number of cities that's on the verge of bankruptcy, Los Angeles, a deficit of $457 million, and the 2012 fiscal budget is $6.9 billion. San Francisco, $380 million deficit, $6.8 billion budget. San Jose, $2.5 billion, $115 million. San Diego, New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Honolulu, Cincinnati, and Camden, as well as Stockton, is meeting this evening at their city council, and they are considering, I think quite strongly, they'll be voting for bankruptcy. Their long-term debt is $829 million, 0.5 actually, and the annual debt service on that debt is $53 million per year. And they currently now have the highest crime in California, as well as the highest crime in the nation, the second highest. This will be the largest bankruptcy in for California. And again, their council is voting on that bankruptcy this evening. That concludes my remarks and my report.
I have a comment.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
First, I have a question for Mr. Fields, our city manager. When will the redevelopment agency audit be ready for the public and for members of this body?
I think they should be ready by the end of this month or next month. By the end of June, most likely end of July.
And who is currently working on that?
Our current auditors, their name is slipping my mind right now, but they're doing all of our audits.
Oh, okay. Madam City Treasurer, do you happen to know the name of our auditors right now? He couldn't remember.
McCann, and Mayor.
Okay. Right. Another comment, Mayor. On Saturday, I actually was working with some people in the community who were concerned about blighted, bank-owned, abandoned properties. And apparently, when they showed a list they put up on a PowerPoint, some of the banks that own a lot of property in the city of Inglewood that are abandoned, foreclosed upon for some time, for several years, not just a few months, but for several years, they're sitting there boarded up. And I'm looking at the screen, and I'm listening to this community group talking about banks being bad neighbors when they own property. I'm looking up there, and I'm thinking, there we are, the city of Inglewood, because how many millions of dollars have we invested with Fannie Mae, in addition to our own redevelopment agency property, but we'll set that aside. We're talking about foreclosed homes. We are an investor in Fannie Mae, and they own a lot of property that's blighted and abandoned in the city of Inglewood, and I don't know what we're going to do about that, but I don't think we should invest any more money with them until they come in here and resolve these issues. Now, Madam City Treasurer, I couldn't tell just by glancing at your renew report. Do you know approximately, and I won't hold you to it because I know it's kind of an estimate, how many millions or bonds with regard to Fannie Mae? Do you happen to remember?
For Fannie Mae, it's very little. And I'd like to point out also Fannie Mae, for the first time this quarter, did have a profit.
Well, they may have had a profit, but they've got abandoned properties in the city of Inglewood. So we need to hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they remedy that situation, either fix them up and resell them, make them habitable. But like I say, this community group, we're out there walking and looking at these homes, and they are a blight on the community, and the city needs to work to see what we can do. We have an ordinance on the books with regard to these banks paying fines, but apparently we haven't utilized that yet. But maybe we'll have a workshop at some point in time, Mr. Fields, with SEIU, who would like to put on a workshop regarding bank-owned properties. I mentioned it to you, I think, at the last meeting. So let's talk to them to see what we can do to generate some revenue for the general fund by going after the lenders on these properties that are sitting vacant and making sure that they do something about it. Thank you, Madam Treasurer.
It's actually $3 million for Fannie Mae.
$3 million.
Yes,
All right, I just didn't have quite enough time to look at it, but thank you very much.
All right. CI1.
It's initiative by Councilmember Stevens to revise the format of warrant register to include a more detailed description of the items listed for payment.
Yes, colleagues, I brought this forward. Oh, excuse me. Do we want to wait?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I thought maybe we wanted to waive further reading, but I would like to read it. But
you what?
Just go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Councilman Stevens.
I would just like to read it. I don't want to be accused of abusing our city clerk. So, requirements. This is an initiative that I'm bringing forward, and what it is this, ladies and gentlemen. The city manager is instructed to make sure each warrant register check line item includes in the description field what the payment is for and the business purpose. Unfortunately, the description field seems to be limited to approximately 40 characters, and it is understood this can be difficult in some cases. After inspection of the warrant register numerous times, I do believe finance staff could provide more clarity on many more of the warrant register check line items by simply adding a little more information to the description field when inputting check information. 2, the city manager is instructed to look into managerial means of having staff input the description specifications noted above in various city departmental applications that feed into the warrant register report description field. The city manager is instructed to look at the possibility of altering or reprogramming the warrant register report generated by the Eden system to expand the description field. Now, council members and the public routinely ask for backup detail, including receipts and other items, to better understand individual purchases because of overly brief, unclear, or missing disbursement descriptions in the warrant register. Often, council members do not vote to approve the warrant register because of this lack of or unclear information in description field for a large number of checks, since it is impractical to request that large number of checks with backup be pulled and copied by staff. Typically, the city manager's office responds by obtaining copies of the disbursement backup detail from the finance department and providing them to the questioning council members and rarely to the public. So for the city of Inglewood to have an easily understood warrant register is not only good government, but is best practices and provides for transparency. Having a more regular all ayes vote to approve the warrant register would increase the public's confidence in their city government, and this is why I'm bringing this forward. There is no cost impact since the additional city staff time will be used in doing a better job of inputting warrant register check descriptions, but this very well may be offset by the reduction in staff time spent pulling and copying check backup detail for council members. And that's why I've brought this forward. Oftentimes I've reviewed the warrant register and it does not supply enough information. So then I'm forced to vote no. Then by the time I receive the information, of course, and review, it oftentimes answers my questions, but oftentimes it still leaves further questions. The point being is that what we could actually add here, Mr. Fields, right in here, could be a description, a brief description. And so I'm just asking that, colleagues, I'm just asking that this be brought before us, to make a determination if we wish to give direction to the city manager and for him to use his judgment accordingly.
Finished?
I'm finished.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I'd rather rely on our judgment, because actually his judgment is the way it's being presented to us. So,
Excuse me.
Don't interrupt.
Excuse
me.
Well, you're.
No, let me talk, please. I'm saying that I would rather rely upon our judgment, and that is, I do believe that there needs to be more clarity and more information. I've always believed that. And if it's a matter of him coming back with some suggestions that we can do with our current system, then that's what he needs to do, and I would support that 100%. So I would like to see what can be done to add more clarity. Plus, we occasionally have what I consider gross mistakes, but those are probably human error, so those need to be corrected as well. But with regard to descriptions, absolutely, there needs to be more information, because those of us up here, if we ask for certain things enough times, we begin to learn what they are, so when they come up, even though maybe a different name, we understand what the service is, or whether it was for housing or Section 8. You know, we begin to recognize if it's retiree additional medical benefit. We begin to recognize certain little letters that stand for this and that. But the public doesn't have the benefit of that type of repetition with regard to learning and understanding. So I would definitely agree to have the city manager come back to us with some ideas on what can be done without completely revamping everything. We do have a system, but just to provide us with the kind of transparency that we should have, and I think the public would greatly appreciate that. So I would support him coming back with ideas for us to make a decision on.
Thank you. Councilman Morales.
I mean, obviously, if it's practical and it could be done in a reasonable way, I don't have a problem with that. That's good. More information, the better. But maybe we should let you comment. Feel free to take my time. Is that something that you've thought it through?
Yes, in fact, before this initiative came forward, I was already working with staff to look at some alternatives to presenting the warrant register. And so with this additional direction, I'll look forward. I mean, I think that I've talked to my staff, and we believe that we can make some adjustments that I can bring back to you.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, that's it. I don't have a problem.
No, just direction.
The only thing that I would ask, since this is direction, is that how many, on the average, how many thousand payments are made in a pay period before we approve them?
Exactly how many thousands, but you're right, it's in the thousands. So.
Okay, it's in the thousands. So then in any information you bring us, we need to understand the implications on how many staff are going to do this and how much more time it's going to take to because I assume this is generated by the Eden system. Is that right?
You're correct.
So someone's going to have to input the information for thousands, and so if we make it too expansive, we might end up overburdening the few employees we have in finance. Ms. Quickie, do you have any input on that?
On the average of the number of documents?
The number of documents that were on a warrant register on the average.
It varies largely because depending on what's happening in a check run. For instance, if there's a warrant register that includes housing, which has a lot of the housing payments, it's very large. But what we could do, like Mr. Fields had mentioned, that we'll go back to staff and we'll look, and what we will do is provide some options to be considered, and then we can pursue it from there. Whether they're minor changes or if they're major changes, then we can find out what your preference would be, and then we can get back to you with the feedback.
But you're going to make some correlation to the amount of staff time that's available and the things that they will not be able to do to generate this expanded description.
Right.
All right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And so that's the direction, Mr. Fields.
I have can I ask a quick question?
Please.
It looks to me like, Ms. Quakey, for instance, a warrant register we have before us this evening. You have two warrant registers. One has 344 checks, and the other one has 751. Sound about right? And actually, I think this is one that has the housing. So one simple suggestion, would make it very easy to achieve the goal of my colleague, and actually a long-time goal of mine, is there any way we can have the housing on, since you have two check registers here this evening, have one check register that's strictly housing, and just housing, then we know what it is for the several hundred people who could be on it, so you don't have to repeat it over and over and over and over again. So maybe that could be, if the direction is to have staff give consideration to ideas, I would like to make that suggestion. There's certain things like that have huge numbers, it's absolutely identical, put on a separate warrant register and just say housing, if you want to call it federal subsidy or whatever, but the point is it's housing. It's simplified, it's all on one thing, and that would be a big help. That's just one suggestion. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
So for clarification, do you give direction to Mr. Mayor? For clarification, do you give direction to the city manager? It's not necessary for us to vote?
No, not on this type of item.
Not on this item?
What he's doing is he's bringing us back options as to what can be done so that we can make an intelligent decision as to how to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish without diverting staff from other necessary duties and not incurring overtime. I think that's the objective here. So they're going to come back to it. Okay. All right?
Consensus, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Cricket.
You're welcome.
Okay, public comments. Any persons wish to address City Council on any matter not connected with city business not elsewhere considered may do so at this time. And a reminder, please, to address the council as a whole. Do not personalize your comments, and to address your concern in a calm manner.
My name is Alfonso Parker Jr., and one of my expertise in my life was R&D, research and development. I've set up a lot of different new programs and things like that. Designed a new, like, manufacturing, production, assembly, redact systems, what you call them today for computers. In my day, we called them encoding, which is what the government used, the Air Force, to categorize government procedures, period. And from what I just heard here on this last topic you were discovering, what you basically said, you're on the right track where you were talking about the housing disbursements and you had a set amount on that. My suggestion would be, just from my quickly listening and just running through my mind real quick to help you get started, would be that you would give each account a title, which would be housing. And under that housing, you would in turn, create a title for each account. You don't have to spell it all out. You can use acronyms to spell it. And when you put it in your printed out computer to print out the form, so you don't have a bunch of words, you can use the acronym and you dot across, and you've got the breakdown of what you want it for. This will require someone with diction and knowledge and stuff like that, and good English, because that's what I assume you're going to do it in, to do this. But it can be done. And once you do that, I think you might find out that maybe your existing system just might work as it is. If not, it'll give you a basis as to how to branch out and where to go with this thing to make it accommodate the goals you're trying to reach. Minimum time, personnel, and expense. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, City Clerk, Treasurer, Manager, Attorney, council members, and mayors. I have lived in the city of Inglewood since 1999. I am very appreciative that you are going to be making repairs to Century Boulevard, but I'd really like to know when they're going to start making repairs to the streets of the residents. Especially, I live in Council Morales' District 3, and our streets are really, really, really bad. In terms of your item number 6, I just want to make a couple of comments because our building, I do live in an apartment building, and I have a wonderful landlady who did not put us out or raise our rent. I'm so thankful for that. And we didn't even have to move out in order for them to make the repairs for the air conditioning. And I just wanted to say that and just find out when maybe we're going to get the streets
What
done.
is your address, miss?
On Lime Street, 126.
The 100 block?
126, yes.
Okay. I think the owner of your building has already made contact, and we've given her a response.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You know, as I stand here, I think about Ralph Douglas, and it's always his comment, he's a friend to all the councilmen and all. So I think I have the distinction, and he's talking down to me right now. Just a couple of things. I'm here standing in the gap, and I want to give it to the mayor. On last Saturday at the Proud Bird, a little business, which is the Dad's Hope in Jesus Ministry, had a beautiful inspirational breakfast. and the pastor there asked me to convey the appreciation of all the council members. And of course, I called Councilman Morales, and he was able to come up with a beautiful accommodation for her. And I'm most appreciative, and she has a letter to give to the council with also some invitations for you possibly to visit her church. Secondly, back in the day, I remember the I-bond meetings that Willie Brown here used to have, and it's amazing to me that our city has not convened over the last years any kind of small business forum, which means that I think myself, we sit in on a meeting in the city of Torrance, and the mayor there was just so animated about getting involved with small businesses. I heard the treasurer give a gloom and doom story, but if our country is to get back on its feet, it's through bringing back those small businesses and making the city very friendly in terms of when they need the necessary permits. Also, we had our first MLK meeting June the 21st. But what I'm here is that to get a feel that this will be our 30th year, and we've heard very echoes that some people really don't feel comfortable in a church setting, and also we're looking at possibly a new venue. We hope that we will be able to get in line to get somebody like Stevie Wonder, who put the word out there that we need to have that. And last year, what I was really disappointed was that several of the seats for our council people weren't there. The same thing held true for the Board of Education. For whatever the reason, I'm hoping that we really kickstart, and really, if it's going to be money, the committee is willing to go out and actually raise and make donations. Last, we had a nice little article in the LA Times about the Forum and Madison Square Garden getting involved. But what was really interesting, it was on the second page where one of the CEOs for the Staples Center had to talk about our venue and the safety of our area. I think if I look at LA and Inglewood, the only thing they got on us would be more officers and more what we call our traffic officers. And I have to commend the traffic officers for what they did in my neighborhood with the Burlington Coat Factory situation. They did an outstanding job, and I hope when we talk about outsourcing their jobs, we really need to rethink that. And to Councilman Franklin, a good friend of mine is trying to open up a business, Arts, Wings, and Things here on Century, and is running into all kind of stumbling blocks where the health inspector came out and said your sign should be white when it was green and all.
Sir.
So those kinds of little things I would hope that we would, and one last thing, if you don't mind, you saw the representative from the VFW is here. Well, we're planning on putting on a job fair for returning veterans.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera, District 1. Tonight I want to talk about the incredibly self-serving and hypocritical way that the rules of these meetings are enforced. First, I want to point out the difference between addressing someone and referencing someone. For instance, I can address the entire council and reference the governor, Jerry Brown. That doesn't mean Jerry Brown's here, and that doesn't mean that I'm addressing him. Equally, I can address this entire council and reference any member of this council. Last week, the council chair made a special point to remind speakers to follow the rules of these meetings, and he made a special point to say that speakers shouldn't single out specific council. Now, I don't know if that had anything to do with the fact that these meetings are now or may soon be available on the internet, I don't know. But the chair's supposed fervency to now follow the rules was apparently short-lived. I have previously described how hypocritically enforced the rules are. Clapping is allowed with some things, but it's discouraged with others. People are given various amounts of time that are not consistent with the rules. When Captain Sissick and Chief Seabrook sat up here, they got an unlimited amount of time, about 10 minutes each. Clock wasn't on. And people are told not to make slanderous or personal attacks but that happens on a regular basis. Chair doesn't do anything about it. And the council chair, in fact, has allowed personal comments and personal attacks on residents by, for instance, the clerk's office. When someone complained that the minutes were wrong, clerk's office attacked them for about 3 minutes. Last week, when I came up and said that the minutes were wrong, the council chair allowed the clerk to go on an untimed attack on me. In fact, the clerk slandered me by saying that I had harassed her because I came down to the clerk's office, which is my right. Only time I've ever come down the last months to the clerk's office, the 7 or 8 times, was to buy DVDs or make requests for records. And in fact, in all those times that I've come down, I've never seen the clerk there except for last week, and I've never said a word to her. But the mayor didn't say anything in her entire speech except, yeah, Didn't say anything about that. If the council chair wants the residents to respect people up there, then they can't be sometimey about respecting the residents. You know, if someone says something, you got to cut them off. You can't just sit there and say, okay, well, that's fine. I have no problem with them talking about him. They do it with different members. They do it with public people out here. You know, you got to run this like a business. You got to run it like you know what you're doing, not like you're just making it up as you go along. And by the way, the public records request I made last week, I still haven't heard anything about it. 3 more days, it's in violation of the law. Let's see what happens with that.
Mayor, I do want to say one thing, and then that's it. I'm gonna leave I'm gonna leave it alone. I don't know what this gentleman's problem is, but I just want the people to know out there that this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know why this keeps going on and on and on, and it is attack, and you know I just don't get it, but I'm going to leave it alone. I know he's going to come back every week and he's going to say the same thing. I don't care if whatever you do, it's never going to be good enough. That's clear. I'm sure that's very clear in everybody's mind. So we'll just have to ride this out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. And on a more positive note, saw the newscast today, heard on the radio about Hollywood Park. My optimism isn't as guarded as it was. I hope that this can be something that, what's what I was saying, the start of something big, sincerely. I guess the only thing I could show any concern for would be we need to be ready to take advantage of it when it opens. We got about a year and a little bit before it's refurbished and whatnot. Century Boulevard needs to be whipped into shape. Prairie leading down to the 105, Manchester, all these places need to be whipped into shape. Businesses have to be brought online. Chamber of Commerce has to get busy. Otherwise, it'll be as it was before. Folks leave a Kings or a Lakers game, straight to the freeway, gone. And their money goes with them. I have confidence that it'll be different this time. It has to be. A gentleman who spoke earlier mentioned Stevie Wonder, stole my thunder. Everybody in this town knows that when this place is refurbished and it's basically its kickoff concert should be Stevie Wonder. Everybody here knows that. This man's done too much for this town. What? I can't believe it. How long has KGL Laces been here? Almost 40 years? And so I'm pretty sure that that'll be the case. Actually, I have to admit, I'm actually a little bit excited at the possibilities. I mean, gosh, 20,000 seat venue. We can give the Playboy Jazz Festival a run for its money if it's done right. District 3 councilman, they could have a Latin music festival there that'll tear the roof off the sucker if it's done right. You could go into Mexico and get the best Ticano and mariachi bands and have a festival. They still have what amounts to what's called a battle of the bands, at least down there. And believe it or not, yeah, I like mariachi music. And they have some folks that can play a trumpet like you wouldn't believe. And so, like I said, it's just those things. It gives me optimism. So, let's get started. Folks, have a good evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Good evening. Good morning. Lynette Lewis, District 4. You know, on last week, I asked a question and I never got it answered.
What was that?
And so that was, it was DR4 from the Public Works. Staff recommended approval of a confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement between the City of Inglewood and the Golden State Water Company.
Ms. Lewis, that was about the water charges that they charge for their residents so that we could calculate our sewer fees based on a percentage of that. So the confidential information they were giving the city was what they charge their residents because they're a different water system than us.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to know that doesn't mean that they're charging us more.
No, ma'am, it does not.
Honey, thank God. Okay. Well, I also want to make a thing on, in response to item number 4, the termination of the waste management contract, whatever. You know, I just want to make a comment because we know that waste companies are various in various cities. You know, I've had the occasion to deal with all 3 of them that was on the thing. And on Anthony's, I'm dealing with them right now. My tenants are having a serious problem with Anthony's at this particular time, and they have had it before. And I guess that's probably why they were so cheap in terms of them picking up the garbage and what have you, because it's monthly they're having problems. Also, consolidated, integrated the consolidated waste. You know, I'm dealing with that tenants with them too. They are not. They're having some problems with them as well, and I'm having problems with waste management. So I'm telling you, I had with all 3 of them. So I'm just saying that waste companies are companies and don't care. I can say that. I'm sure that Anthony's is a great company or what have you because they're clean and pretty way over there. But when you're talking about in our community, they are not. So I just want to say that I don't want to pick on any one of them. We are where we are at this point. And I want to say in terms of our big deal that we are going with Madison Square Garden, man, we are in the money.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. What's that? Oh, you know what, ma'am? I'm sorry. We have to take a break for the DVD, so we'll come back in 5 minutes so they can change the DVD. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I was given the high sign.
Since I was here when we stopped, I just came back up here. Joyce Smith, District 1. I live right near Century Boulevard, and Century between Crenshaw and Van Ness is where I am all the time, coming or going from my house. I would hate to see them narrow those streets, because when you think about traffic and things, you build for increases in traffic, you build for the future, and for them to narrow the lanes, I just don't understand that. I think that it would be less desirable to have the lanes narrowed from what they are now. And so I would hope that when I wish that we could see the plans, the residents, because this affects me greatly and I'm very concerned about it, you know, but I don't think that they should narrow that section between Crenshaw and Van Ness.
You know, I don't want to take any of your time, but as Mr. Fields said, before they do the final striping and construction, they do plan to stripe it down to 2 lanes so there can be personal hands-on observations made of what it does to traffic and ingress and egress out of the avenues. So that's part of the plan. And, you know, if it's found that doesn't work, I'm sure we'll have to redo things. But remember this, though. We won't be able to widen those sidewalks on the on the north side of the street. They're dangerously,
I know they're very narrow.
dangerously narrow. And, you know, sometimes you come to a power pole, you actually have to step out in the street
Yeah,
for 45
that's
mile an hour traffic. So
Yeah.
those are some considerations.
That's true. However, you know, to me, you're building it kind of obsolete if you narrow it, and then in the future, traffic is usually increases, and I would hate to have something that's out of date before it's even built. So that's my other consideration was about the Hollywood Park situation. That is a huge development, and I kind of hate to see the council split on that. I think that it would be very good if all 5 council members were behind the project, and if those members who are in the majority voting on this would consult with the ones who object to it and address their objections, then maybe the whole council could be unified on such a huge project that affects the city of Inglewood, and that's going to last for 30 to 45 years. But I would like to see, it would be very nice if the council was unified on that Hollywood Park project. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Folks, could we line up? It's, you know.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Stuart Bailey. I'd just like to say this is my birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm the big 49. I will be spending the weekend in Catalina Island for my birthday. Party up. But first of all, I'm here to say Consolidated Waste will be our new trash providers. And as we all know, I heard just a few comments about they're going to cost $25 million more than what was originally projected. I'm just going to say this. If it cost, with waste management, $120 million, and if we can get the new contract under $100 million, I think that Consolidated will come in and do a quality job, because there's still, the city of Inglewood, we still have residents that have pride. We still are a very upstanding city. We're not a city that has corruption. There's no corruption here at all. So I think that we can say, like I said, if we can do it for $100 million for a 10-year period with Consolidated, and they can get, it's a win-win situation. They get something out of it. They're going to give us something, which is quality trash pickup. I know a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, it's just trash." Yeah, it is just trash. But if it's not picked up in the right manner, that trash can be all over your street, all over your business. That's what we don't want to buy. I understand, you know, it's tight out there. Everybody's got problems with money, families, everybody, cities, everybody. But you have to pay for at least a little quality. And I think the city of Inglewood deserves just a little bit of quality, even if it is at $100 million for 10 years. Those are my comments. Thank you. And everybody have a blessed weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Stuart. Ms. Oss?
Good evening again, Leroy Fisher. Listen, I wanted to comment on that South Bay workforce thing. My concerns had to do with the hiring of young people, and not so much those representatives, even though I don't think that AT&T are that interested in this city. And I would hope that those people that you chose tonight will go to those meetings and be there like Wayne, wherever he went to, and get young people, you know, that look like us to have jobs. You know, it's just like this city. Many of you in this city have your own children or members of your families working in this city of ours, and I'm talking about young people at large working, and people that have an interest in this city, seeing that those kids go to work. You know, I talked to you last week about Captain Sisak, and I don't know what they've done to him. They downsized him or hit him back on the back 40 or whatever. But I say to you and to all of you to read that article on the Wave that came up on the last Thursday that talked about that situation. And I say to you then that you don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money, you know, searching for somebody to come in here and guide this police force of ours, because Captain Sisak, in my mind, and in the mind of many of these residents here, is an individual who will take charge and can do that for you without spending all that money. With regard to that senior citizen thing that you talked about last week, you know, you're talking about some 8 years down the road. You're talking about picking seniors, two that you have, Mayor Butts, and maybe one that the rest of you might have. You know, as we are seniors, you know, I don't know that any of us have 8 years, you know. I talked to you about going down to Lawndale, you know, when the gentleman from Sacramento was down here, the comptroller. We were in a building, a community building there, that, you know, those people had built. It had all kind of different rooms and things for people. You know, you them don't have to make such a big deal of this nonsense, you know, if you're really, really going to do it. And $23 million is a whole lot of money, you know, to get started. And it ought not take you the next 8 years, because half of those seniors, and even the ones that you're going to be hiring to represent you, are not going to be here. So that's my comment about the whole thing.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is William Perez. I'm a resident of District 1, and I actually have a business at District 3. So whenever there's a debate as to which end should be done first, I'm in the situation where I benefit from both. The biggest positive with that is that we're actually talking about it. Second, I wanted to talk about C1. Councilman Stevens was talking about transparency, or better yet, adding some comments to the ledger. I may not look like it, but I used to work for Bridgestone Firestone. I've done a lot of accounting. I've done a lot of financing. I have an MBA. Running pivot tables on any database is not very difficult to do. My 19-year-old can do it. It can be done. Processes and procedures are for efficiency. You develop these processes and procedures, you present it to your people as an opportunity for them to be more efficient, be able to keep their jobs, be able to multiply what they do, and provide transparency. The biggest issue that I see, and I've been sitting here for about 4 or 5 weeks, the big C word comes up, conspiracy. I truly don't think there's a conspiracy, but I do think there's a lack of process. I'm a big Six Sigma guy, and when I see waste, it bothers me. And I see a lot of the waste. I don't have much time. And in order to do that, there's just 3 things that are simple. First, I guess you could say 1 month study of, a project management will tell you. Time, cost, and quality. If you live to those 3 things, you're gonna get efficient, whatever it is that you do. you have a tremendous job. It's a huge budget. I mean, and you're accountable to everybody that's here. I understand that. And I understand that it seems like staff's being attacked. The unfortunate thing is that there's no other person or any other people that we can go to and say, hey, what's the problem? There is an issue when certain paperwork hasn't been submitted. There's Blackberries, heck, even Outlook. A simple reminder will do it. I've ran 30 different retail operations, just one person for Bridgestone Firestone. You can look it up. I'm online. And I'll tell you, it is difficult. It can be done. And this city's moving in the right direction. The Madison Square Garden deal is tremendous. I'm excited as excited can be. It's going to bring more revenue in here. Property value hopefully will go up. I need that. My business is flourishing. Even though I have people walking around trying to collect revenue, my signs are said, I got a bill that states that my sign, I just got billed $100 because my signs are dirty. And to any of you that have been at my business, I run an automotive shop and it's cleaner than the restaurants next to me. And yet I'm being fined. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm addressing Ms. Harden. I want to address my name. You know my name? Okay. I did something in 2006 as a council, and I want to take this back. And I want to apologize, too. In 2006, my councilwoman in District 2, you fought and I about those fireworks. Morales, you remember that? It wasn't as bad. But my God, it's dangerous. I mean, now it's getting bad. It's really getting where you can't tell a gunshot from a cherry bomb. Kids, people are being harmed. Animals are going crazy. Kids are being blown up. They bring it in illegal. It's just getting dangerous. What I'm up here for now is to ask all the council as a whole and the city clerk, is it possible to get it back on the ballot in November to stop the fireworks? Stop the fireworks. They coming from all over California. Los Angeles has killed it. Santa Monica, I think, killed it, Butts. Santa Monica killed it too. They all coming here. We don't know these people. It used to be like 24 stands. Now we got 124 stands. And these people...
I don't think that's accurate, but
not, I'm exaggerating a little bit of yeast here.
You never exaggerate.
But I'm saying it's a lot of them.
I got you.
And you know what happened last year? They took off. Nobody knew where they exist. Nobody knew. This is supposed to be for charity like Mr. Fisher was doing. It's getting bad. We don't know these people. They come in here taking the money and they ripping it off. So I did fight my councilwoman on that one, and we won. I beat you on that one. But now it's time I'm with you here. We got to stop it as a whole, y'all. We have to. Another thing I want to say is, on the Burlington thing, I don't know, I don't remember if I did congratulate Inglewood Police Department. When I tell you, they did a hell of a fine job, they did. No casualties. SWAT was there. All of our IPD was there. I mean, 3 little silly kids could have been blown off the map, but it was handled. I have to give the kudos to our Inglewood PD. Even give them a raise. Give them a raise. No, I take that back, y'all. But anyway, I have to give kudos on Burlington. I must. And if so, could we please, y'all, think about stopping this in November, the fireworks. Thank you very much.
Mayor, I just want to say this. If we do an election in November, it would cost the city extra money. We can do that, though, for April of next year. That would be, because we already have an election, so it wouldn't be extra money. And that's if it's your pleasure.
Thank you, Ms. Austin.
Gil Matthew, District 4, Mayor and City Council. Now we fast approaching the fourth quarter. And I want to know, when are you going to begin budget hearings? And again, you need more transparency on this successor agency. There's many questions unanswered. I mean, where are we budget-wise? What effect is going to have on the 12-13 budget? What are the recognized obligations payments? And what are the enforceable obligation payments? And what has been approved that we have submitted, and what has not been approved? What properties do we have that belong to the successor agency that we must put up for sale? And how much money are we going to submit to the state? Now, you've completed the January, June 30th. Now we go to the July, December. Now, all that we have submitted, how much has been approved, how much has been denied? And what effect it's going to have on us as far as money left to service the bonds and the obligations that we have? See, these are the things that you have not disclosed to the residents of this city. And I think it's time to do so because time is running out.
Mr. Matthew, everything was approved except for one item related to Hollywood Park tomorrow that comes off in the future, probably 3 years from now. But everything on that sheet that you saw a couple weeks ago, that came back from the Department of Finance and it was approved.
Okay, and that's all including December 12th. See, that was for the first 6 months.
That was for the first 6 months. That's
now, what
all.
about the next 6 months?
We don't notice that.
Well, you have an oversight committee. It's time that they do it now, then to rush and say we don't have time.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
You see, and this budget hearing is absolutely, positively necessary. You're not going to wait 2 weeks like you did last time and say, well, we got to rush, we're going to pass the budget. Well, you haven't even reviewed it. See, these are, you have professional people in this city that knows about budgets. You see, and you're short on staff, and the question is, how much money do you have left to complete this budget? Now, you need a report, because if you spent more than 75% and don't have 25% left in these departments, you're going to come up short again and then roll it over. Short rolling it over like you've been doing for the last 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
Good evening, Mayor Butts, Council, and community. I attended a meeting today over at Ladera, and there was an announcement in the senior citizen lunches have been cut, and it is now first come, first serve. I need to know, is this going to take place at Inglewood Senior Citizen Center and also Hawthorne and Lenox? And why is the food being cut and first come, first serve? I heard in the market this afternoon that you would be addressing the seniors over at one of the senior citizen places tomorrow. I need to know the time.
I'll tell you in a second. But you can carry, oh, that's your comments, okay. They'll be 11 o'clock. Please, Ms. Brown.
My name is Diane Sombrano, and I can answer some of those questions about the successor agency. It's kind of like, well, when the fox and the wolf get together to guard the hen house. Most of us will be shocked to know who is on that committee. Obviously, our mayor, our redevelopment director who thought we had two sizzlers in town. And lo and behold, Joe Razan, the guy who helped us purchase all those vacant lots and provide the tumbleweed fields. And of course, we do have another individual who I think It was interesting. At one meeting I attended, the next day he went back and said, wow, that woman looks into numbers. That's not good. You might want to Google his name. You can find him as the operating officer at the Inglewood Unified School District. Check his own background and you'll see why I'm concerned. And then we did have two people who were actually accountants who did have a series of questions which were not necessarily answered in a way I'm sure our MBA guest would have been pleased. That's kind of why I kind of think that things aren't always so good as many of us would like to believe Inglewood is. And of course, I don't know, I get a little bit miffed when I find out that Madison Square Gardens only paid, how much? $23 million, and then we paid 18, and wait a minute, it won't be ours. And they don't have to pay back the 18. If any of you ever get a nice new shiny car and you want to loan it to me with the same arrangement we gave to Hollywood Park, give me the keys. I'll make sure you don't get it back, just like we won't get back that money. Because you know what? $695,000 breaks even in 30 whole years. But you see, we had that plan and that whole, gosh, they promise, with Hollywood Park and the casino and the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion and the police station and the golf cars. We've been there, we've done that. You know, for me, it's fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, we're stuck with the bill. And I'm going to go on to say, you know, all that hoopla about the airport? Yes, Mike Stevens was involved many years before some of you have been sitting on this dais. And I'm going to say, wow, how come some of you don't have appointments to the Aviation Commission and you don't know the answers to some of the stuff that was brought up? You've been sitting here for a long time, and just because sometimes it's so insulting. The minutes for each of the meetings is separate. It's on one piece of paper behind a yellow piece of paper, and I would hope that you have actually looked at those agendas before you voted so many years. And I would hope that I know it's read. Other people were allowed to talk into the red. Only some people are asked to sit down hurriedly.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Hello, Inglewood family. Wild Bill Widener, still curious about a lot of things. I heard you'd be asked when you'll be at the senior center. Is that the Inglewood one?
Give you the address.
She said 11 o'clock, but it didn't say which one.
Hold on one second. You can continue on.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking about that. There was approved a year or two ago to put air conditioning in the Inglewood building, and it still hasn't been done. And now it's summer season again, and Ms. Cruz last week talked about it'll be 38 months that it would be until it'd be finished. Now the way I count is that's 4 summers. And so that's 4 summers of people in their 90s and so forth being in there for a little recreation, burning up. Now, you know that they tell everyone to go to cooling centers. Well, we don't have one. So here's a suggestion, and it's something to think about. You know, everyone gets up here and they think they're part of Hollywood. Well, we could use part of Hollywood over there in that building. On all these sets where they're shooting films and everything, they have these portable air conditioners with these big hoses running in there that cool them buildings down. So I guess Inglewood could lease something from Hollywood, you know, and it would solve that problem because it is pretty serious as far as I'm concerned, you know. And with that, that's enough out of me tonight.
Thank you.
Viola Gardner, District 1, Mayor, council members, other staff, community. I would like to say that Mike Stevens was a trailblazer for LAX no expansion. And I worked with him years before any of you were on that council, in all probability. And I feel that he has a great understanding as to what community needs and why we walked in order for things to get to the point where they are today. And it's very disappointing that large sums of money are directed by persons who have no idea of the purpose and why we walked. We wore shirts saying LAX no expansion. We had buttons. We wore them on our caps, on our lapels. And we sacrificed a lot of time. Mike Stevens sacrificed money, time from his family, and hours with community. Community decided that he should come here and be a part of council because of the work that he put in willingly for community. And when we hear him speak, he's speaking for community. He's speaking for the things that he knows that we walked for, that we want to happen in Inglewood. And it's unfortunate that we have persons that have no idea of what community wants or the sacrifices community have made for the many blocks and miles that we walked, for the caravans that we had, in our cars, signs. And yet and still, you can defeat the purpose of community in all their efforts. I wish that you would think carefully before you bind together as a group and deny community of those things that have been our struggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gurney.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, citizens of Inglewood. My name is Wayne Spencer. I'm a civic servant. Today marks the last day me being president of the Inglewood Rotary Club for 2011-2012. But instantly, I must have been late to the meeting. They voted me in for president-elect for 13 through 14. I just can't get away from this thing. But you know, I love the city of Inglewood. I love serving here. I love volunteering. Just love being around everybody else. I'm going to ramble along just a little bit for my 3 minutes today. This weekend is Jamaica's National Championships. My nephew is the national champion at 5,000 and 10,000 meters. So he's going there. He's only 23 years old, and they actually have him set to go to Mexico, Guadalajara, in 2 weeks to compete there. So, you know, we got our hands on hoping that he'll make that A standard for the Olympics. And I'm sure they're going to put him on the 10,000 meter team, but he's got to make the A standard for the 5,000 meters. But back to Inglewood, let me tell you something. Don't take on the fireworks. Rotary, other church organizations, this is serious business for us. We use that money for scholarships. And I mean, not just educational scholarships, but there are scholarships that build people from very young. You have the organizations here like the Amen. You have the summer programs that come along. We did a program last year that we helped fund with Parks and Recs, where they taught the kids, where the kids had to write a play, but they also had to build stages. So it gave them some hands-on skills. And in the city of Hawthorne, we used some of those funds for the park rangers that we did, where we just supplement the police department actually trained these people how to become park rangers, and it was able to keep them employed during the summertime. We have ambassadorial scholarship programs where we'll send somebody who's a college student to a foreign country for a year. We have student exchange programs where we'll send youth from Inglewood for 5 weeks to Japan. And they'll live each week in a separate home with a Japanese family. These are things that the average person just doesn't have access to, but with the monies that we are able to raise through the fireworks sales, we're able to do these things. We have things called the Ryler camps, where on a weekend we will have kids go to Catalina Island or into the mountains, Lake Arrowhead, and they'll go there for a week. They'll learn all kind of character building things. They'll do different type of skits and different things just to build their confidence. But there's intangibles that come out of the effort beyond the skill building, the networking that happens within business people that actually happens during that 1 week that we do fireworks sales. So please, if it's fireworks, we're going to have a war. Don't waste our city money on no elections, okay? Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Close public comment. Council comments. Councilman Stevens.
I'd just like to say thank you to Ms. Gardner for your kind words and remembering how it was.
I didn't say the year. I think it was 1988.
Well, 94 we started, and we continued on even after 9/11. And because of the significance of 9/11, ladies and gentlemen, was that at that point when we would go to LAX with our protest signs and our LAX expansion, those signs with the people from Westchester and Playa del Rey, and I organized those people also. Originally, I was the board member of a group now known as RSAC. I was the original founding member of that group. And a gentleman by the name of Howard Bennett, who was the founder of Heal the Bay, but I sort of digressed on that, was that we would go out there and with our signs, but after 9/11 happened, our signs were declared as weapons because they were sticks. And so we no longer could we go out to LAX with immunity and just simply voice our opinion in reference to LAX expansion. But I thank you so much, Ms. Gardner, for saying those kind words. Thank you. You know, with that, Ms. Gardner said something that was something that I just want to drive home. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it one more time. I won the general election with $865. My now 11-year-old daughter on one side of the street and I on the other side, and handing out flyers. And Ms. Gardner's totally right. Never been done before. So when I make my vote, I know who put me here. Wasn't the money. Wasn't the money. And if I have to, we're not a problem. We're going to do it again. I like helping people. I enjoy helping people. I really do. And I just cannot thank you enough, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me this opportunity to help you and serve you. And with that, I'm going to conclude at 10:30 this evening. And thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. With regard to the fireworks, we used to have 11 or 12 stands many years ago, and the club, such as the Rotary Club, used to make a decent amount of money for their programs. And by the way, the Rotary Club does wonderful things with the money that they earn. Now, actually, I asked you and you gave me the answer, but I don't remember. How many permits were given this year? It was huge.
I believe there's about 23.
23. So that's double, which actually decreases the profit that any group makes. But let me just say this. I don't know what's happened to the process. We used to have a process. At one time it came before the council, then the city administrator had the authority, but still it was still limited in number. How it got up to this large number, I don't even know how that happened. Plus, these groups, as one person mentioned that they didn't know who they were, that's occurred in the past. Meaning a group will come out of nowhere, I never heard of it before, they sell fireworks and then they disappear. Not only are they required to be nonprofits, but since we write the rules, if we're going to have them, then we need to make sure, as the Rotary, that the money is used for youth groups. And I think that Mr. Fields, with regard to those permits that have already been given, of course now it's so close, that before anyone can submit or request a permit like for next year, they have to prove evidence, show us evidence that they spent the money on the youth of Inglewood. And if they can't show us that evidence, then we shouldn't be even considering them for approval for a fireworks stand. Because that's what it's all about. The money, there are so many people here opposed to the sale of fireworks for lots of good reasons. But it was placed on the ballot, and it was rejected with regard to doing away with them. So in the interim, let's make sure the money is spent on the youth, because that's the purpose of it. And the Rotary does a fabulous job, no question about it. With regard to the first come, first serve that was referenced at the senior center in Ladera, we have seniors that go to that facility, so I would like to know what's going on there when they say first come, first serve, because that's absolutely ridiculous. We have many seniors that take a bus. It's a lot of inconvenience for them to go to a senior center for lunch. And now apparently, at least at that facility, they're going to wait in line and to be told, oh, no more food. What are they supposed to do? Just go home or wait for another bus or sit around? Once again, I don't know what's caused that to occur, but we do have people who attend that facility. We have a lot of senior citizens that go to lots of facilities, so we need to look into that, please, to get an explanation. I've not heard about it here, so I'm assuming that's not the case for us, but I want to know what happened there. Also, with regard, very quickly, Mayor, with regard to the items before us on the Hollywood Park Tomorrow project, I don't believe there's anyone up here who objects to the Hollywood Park project. They support the project. The item before us tonight had to do with an additional taxing burden being placed on future residents at that development, which doesn't have to happen. So it has really nothing to do with the development per se. It's a burden, a tax burden being placed on those properties. It doesn't have to happen for that project to happen. And I think I want to make the public clear of that, because I don't think anybody objected to the project. It's the tax burden being placed on future residents that we believe is unnecessary. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Morales.
Thank you, and thank everybody for coming out tonight. First, we've covered a lot of ground. Fireworks, as Ms. Dunlap said, we tried the election. It was rejected by the voters. Part of it was because the nonprofit groups who benefit from it really supported and pushed for that support to exist continually. You know, I think at the beginning, when I first got up here, I was the only one who supported fireworks. It was more because of what I remembered as a kid looking forward to going and buying it with my parents. But it's really not the responsible users that are the problem. You know, there's really good families look forward to it, purchase them, come home, use them, clean up. It's the fact that it's involved, the illegal fireworks have been given the entire firework industry this bad kind of view of it. But at the same time, the groups that tend to benefit from it, they're doing a great job. Ms. Dunlap pointed to the fact that youth should be benefiting. It's true that some groups are adult groups that do different type of works. A lot of them are sports programs, are the baseball leagues that keep their fees down because of the money they make every year. They get to have enough money to buy that chalk, to do the field every week, buy the extra helmets, buy the catcher's gear. It's amazing how they make that dollar stretch. So, you know, it's important for us to remember that. The Hollywood Park project, what was going on today was the fact that in order to put the project at the level we want it at and at the level that wants to be offered to future owners, you know, these are the kind of tools that get used. The Melrose District allows all of those payments to be made and pass it on, yes, to future owners, but those future owners are not forced to buy the property. This is where they choose to buy the property, and they know. So that's how we get the quality that we need. I want to, you know, really mention the MSG project that was mentioned today in the LA Times. I hope, you know, it gives a further understanding of where the city is going, how big the project is, the fact that the article was actually on hold until they handed over the keys, but it was a big deal. The biggest competitor in the state really mentioned it and really tried to push it down. I think that's a great sign, as a matter of fact, that the competitor is more worried than anybody else. So he knows that, they know that. The forum is going to do a great job and push the city forward. Inglewood Police Department just want to make sure that they know that we understand just what they overcame with the Burlington Coat Factory. We were on the news. Things could have gotten bad. We would have had an extremely poor PR situation, but instead, because of the work that they did and how well prepared and handled the situation, we ended up being a great example for police departments that our size. So I'm proud of that, and I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you all once again for coming.
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank the District 4 residents and throughout the city of the community for the town hall meeting we just recently had this past Saturday. It was held at Hollywood Park Casino, and the theme was disaster preparedness and emergency response. It was well attended. I personally want to thank my council assistant, Ms. Claudette Matthews, for her exuberant and outstanding job of helping me galvanize the residents to be in attendance. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Willie Brown in the Inglewood Today publications for the past 2 weeks have publicized that notification. I want to thank the Assistant Acting Chief of Police, Mark Fonterrada, the Los Angeles County Fire Department, Captain Brent Burton, Southern California Edison, Marvin Jackman, the Regional Public Affairs Manager, Golden State Water Company, Fred Agerian from Southwest District Manager, and Southern California Gas, Mike Harrell, Public Affairs Manager, and Synergy Capital and Insurance Associations, Mr. Shannon Lawrence. And Mr. Shannon Lawrence spoke particularly about emergency preparedness on finances. Too many times that we mature into a senior life and we're not prepared for retirement. And so part of that segment led into that, which was outstanding, and a number of comments was echoed regarding in preparation. When can you start? The answer is now, despite of your age, etc. Also, I want to acknowledge that today I attended the Welcome Home Airman Celebration at the Space and Missile Systems Center at the El Segundo United States Air Force Base, where it was led by Lieutenant General Pawlikowski and Chief Master Sergeant Jonathan Rossetti, of the number of soldiers that had been sent abroad from a month to a year in Afghanistan and other parts of the world. And those that were in the ceremony were still wholesome young men and women. There was a number of individuals that did come back with injuries, but more importantly that they are our locals, that right here in our own community, and that some of us was there to make sure that they were appreciated for all of their fighting efforts to keep this country free and home of the brave. And on that note, thank you and good night.
I wanted to let everybody know we do have a procedure in place to verify whether or not people that operate fireworks stands account for the monies that they collect, and they report that information to a staff member. If they don't turn it in, they won't be renewed the next year for their permit to operate their stand. I want to talk a little bit about the Madison Square Garden acquisition of the Forum. I don't care what anybody says. This is a great day for the city of Inglewood. And I want to make something very clear. This represents, at a minimum, 300 construction jobs during the rehabilitation phase. The Madison Square Garden has committed $250,000 to do local outreach so we can do the best chance to hire Inglewood residents. 260 full-time jobs once the Forum is in operation. And they have ticket sales guarantees of $300,000 per year on a 3-year rolling average. And the estimate is that that will provide about $670,000 to $75,000 a year to the general fund. And let's talk about the financing, because I've heard so much misrepresentation. First of all, there's $18 million in rehabilitation loan that is redevelopment money that we could not use for anything but redevelopment purposes, which would have gone back to the state. And it's an escrow. Madison Square Garden has not received one dime. They've spent $23.5 million of their own money, and until they spend $50 million more, they will not have access to that rehabilitation loan. And yes, it is forgivable over 10 years. But there's a reason why redevelopment was created. It was to encourage economic development in cities to put us on a level playing field with the Santa Monicas, the Beverly Hills, the Culver cities that have already established themselves. Why would you come in a place where you have no people and no cars and take a risk, a $75 million risk, when you could do the same thing someplace where it's established and proven you'll be a success? We should applaud them for making their only, this multi-billion-dollar company has made their only West Coast operation here in the city of Inglewood. That is a great thing for us. And it portends to be the economic anchor for the new core of Inglewood. The development that will occur across the street at Hollywood Park tomorrow, I opine, will be much greater than it would have been without the Forum and Madison Square Garden there. So this is a very good day. No matter what anyone might want to convince you of, this is a very good day for Inglewood. And we sit and listen to a lot of second guessing, and that's what we're supposed to do. But it wasn't mentioned that the Madison Square Garden rehabilitation loan, along with Everything else except for one item related to Hollywood Park was approved in our reportable obligations. So we were critiqued for fighting for you to have access to our monies as we saw it, and we prevailed. So this is a great day for the city of Inglewood, and we're adjourned.